Welcome back to the Big Screen Bols podcast, where you have my podcast host from a galaxy far, far away, Christian McCrite.
Hello, and happy May the 4th, and may the 4th be with you.
Yes, sir. And we have a guest on as well, too. You know him. You love him. He's been granted the right of master, Zach Edwards.
Let's go.
Welcome back to the podcast, man.
Thanks for having me again.
And you do have a seat on this council, so there you go.
Fitting.
That's right. Otherwise, you may have to kill us all later.
Yeah,
you know?
I just might.
And a bunch of little kids. We're going to fix this whole entire situation by giving him a spot.
That's right. How about we just let him sit with us?
All it took, just Anakin, you've been granted the right of master.
Dude, just imagine that like it's because they didn't have enough chairs. It's like it's not really in our budget to get another chair in here. Also, this square foot space is only meant for 12 people.
Yeah.
Those space chairs, or those space chairs, spaceships. Those are pretty expensive, man. Like we're talking a lot of credits.
But I think we do have something, and they like open up a closet, and it's just like a foldable metal chair that they like drag.
That's all you needed. That's all
right.
you needed, guys.
And it's like 2 feet lower than everybody else, so it like sits down.
I don't know. I think he'd still be set up a little bit higher than Yoda.
Fair.
Maybe. So, if you can't tell by what we're referencing, we're going to be talking Star Wars.
I can't tell anything.
And if you don't know what Star Wars is, you know what? I'm feeling generous today. I'm feeling nice. I'm not going to say anything. Go watch Star Wars. He's looking for a button.
I'll say it. You guys are a bunch of yeah.
All right.
If you're watching the video, you could tell I didn't cuss at all. But
Yeah.
just to give, I hate to give away the secrets there. I shouldn't have given away too much. I did, ladies and gentlemen. Go watch it on video.
Yeah. But yeah, we are going to be talking about the 11 core movies because we thought we would split up a lot of these different categories of Star Wars because there's movies, live action TV shows, there's the animated TV shows. And I actually put on the Instagram page, I actually asked the audience or our general following, which project or which part of Star Wars they actually enjoy the most. And there was the movies, the TV shows, the movies, the live action TV shows, the animated TV shows, and the games. And the movies won by and large. So the next highest, I think, was actually the video games.
Oh yeah,
which was a little bit of a shocker to me, but that's good because that shows that Star Wars in its expansion is doing really well in the gaming industry. I mean, it always has, but now like even nowadays with all the stuff coming out.
yeah.
So,
Like I just remember now, like to this day, Battlefront was just such a big piece of life back on the original Xbox.
oh yeah, absolutely.
And
Back in the day.
yeah, and they came out with the newest one as well too, Battlefront 2.
That's one of my favorite games ever, not gonna lie.
The
It's
newest
really
one or
good.
the
the newest one.
Yep, the newest one is really good too. I loved it too.
It's got great like lightsaber combat.
Yeah.
It's
Very
a little,
well balanced.
Right. It's a little lackluster in the multiplayer department, especially with like the starships and stuff like that. But for the general part, like it started out
Yeah, General Grievous.
like a yeah, that's a character from Star Wars.
What?
Guys, I get the reference.
I still
It
don't.
started out as a pretty weak game, but then it really grew into something awesome. So
I love the whole combat deal. It's like you win on Earth, like the planet, and then you go to the spaceship and
Mhm.
fight again. And then if you win on the spaceship,
yeah,
the game's over. But you have a chance for like a last stand
and they go back down
to go back down and fight it all over again. And then you go to the other
Yeah.
person's. So it's like
It's
nothing
pretty
was
cool.
more hyped when they went onto your spaceship in Battlefront 2.
and you were able
and-
to hold them off.
Yeah, you were hold them off, and then you went back down and won the whole entire game. Like there's been nights where I've been down in the basement just screaming, "I'm the best."
Around. Ain't nobody gonna bring me down. But anyways, we're not here to talk about the video games today. We are here to talk about the 11 core movies.
Yep.
So that includes the 9 movies in the Skywalker saga. Excuse me, saga.
He's trying his tongue in Jabba and speaking English at the same time.
Sagwas and Jawas, you know what I'm saying? So the 9 Skywalker saga movies and Rogue One and Solo: A Star Wars Story. So why don't we, well, first of all, before we get into it, do you have any historical facts for us, or are you wanting to go ahead and getting right into it?
Again, this is 11 movies that we're going to have to go through and rate and talk through. So I think that the history speaks for itself. It's Star Wars, ladies and gentlemen.
It's good.
Do I need to elaborate?
No, I know.
George
I don't think so.
Lucas.
George Lucas and then Disney.
Kathleen Kennedy.
Oh yeah, Kathleen Kennedy. That's for sure. So, but mostly George Lucas.
That's right.
So, why don't we go ahead and jump into the discussion of each of these movies? So, gentlemen, where would you like to start?
Do we want to go back and forth on the list, or do you want to discuss movies and then rank them? How do you want to do it?
That is a good question.
I think we should start from. How about we just go from our number one and we go all the way down, because I feel like the biggest juice of this whole entire podcast is talking about the Star Wars movies we hate the most. Fair enough.
Sure, that's fair.
Fair enough. Again, we're gonna make our first top 5, top 4. We're gonna make sure to make them nice and prepped up, and I'm trying to not say anything too inappropriate here, but we're gonna have a fest with it. I'll tell you what.
He really has to hold himself back.
I
Sometimes.
am.
He's just kind of an animal.
Yeah,
So,
ladies and gentlemen, you know me.
yeah,
It's the crazy.
that's right. The Kindle Man is is what we call him.
Oh yeah.
So are we going in like from the best to the worst?
Yep.
Is that what you want to
Yep.
do? Okay, we'll do it.
Again, I feel like the most fun we're gonna have in this whole entire podcast is talking about the movies we hate the most. So hopefully we keep you guys around long enough to hear the whole piece of it.
Yep. So, Zach Edwards,
Uh-oh.
you're gonna start us off because you're the guest. You're the guest. All the expectations.
And you want me to say the movie and rate it right after, or give the rating at the end of my...
I'd say let's rate it all at the end, just like
Okay.
what ratings
Okay.
were on it and stuff.
Okay,
But just
yeah.
talk about like who's number one. We'll go 1, go through the list, go through number 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Popcorn read around for
Let's do
the
it.
public school folks like myself.
Popcorn read around.
Okay.
I
All
can
right.
raise my hand.
I'm kind of nervous.
You nervous?
For my number 1 favorite Star Wars movie, kind of controversial. It depends on who you are. It's not controversial at all to me. Number 1, Revenge of the Sith.
Whoa. Really?
Really.
Explain.
To me, Revenge of the Sith is Star Wars. I think it's peak in almost every category. So, and fun fact, I saw this movie when I was 5 years old in theaters. I remember seeing a trailer for it at my grandparents' house on their little box TV, and I was so hyped for it. And we saw it at Warenberg Theaters, rest in peace, it's Alamo now. And I don't remember a lot of the movie in theaters. I mean, I was 5, it was a long time ago, but I always remember the very beginning. It's such a cool scene, and watching it now, it's really good CGI. And I think it's the best space scene in all of Star Wars. And to me,
I
that
agree, man.
it encapsulates Star Wars because it's called Star Wars, and that means it's a war in space.
Yeah.
And Revenge of the Sith has the best section in space, in my opinion.
No, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah. Again, this movie's ranked pretty high on my list as well too. I'll say. What really can you say? You have the 2 pinnacles. Honestly, I feel like that come out of this franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the beginning parts of this franchise, and you have it all kind of change and flip flop around, and you have the clones looking a lot cooler in this
Oh,
one
yeah.
as well too.
Way cooler.
You have General Grievous's demise. You have so many highlights. Order 66, like one of the most iconic moments in all film history.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah,
And it's the best lightsaber duels, just the prequels in general is my favorite style of fighting.
Yep.
It's the most choreographed, clearly, honestly. And it's the best fight, Obi-Wan versus Anakin at the end. And I'm pretty sure John Williams did a line before recording all the music for this movie, because it's also the best, in my opinion, in this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, Anakin's betrayal, it starts playing whenever Obi-Wan gets shot on Grievous's planet, and it just hits. It's so emotional for me, even though, like, you could easily not be emotional about this movie. But, man, Anakin's betrayal, so good. And then Battle of the Heroes, such a good piece with the best fight. And they even sprinkle in Padme and Anakin's love song whenever they're fighting at the
Yes.
end.
I have noticed that.
It's so touching, and I
It's
love
sad.
it.
It's just sad.
It's very sad.
The dialogue as well too.
Clear step up from for the first two prequels. The dialogue still cheesy in some spots, but I look past it because it doesn't even faze me. I love it.
Yeah, and there's a level of nostalgia for us as well too.
Yes.
Since again, those are the movies we grew up with on our end of
Exactly.
things. We grew up with the prequels compared to just the original series, which is a lot different. Talking to like older folks like our parents and even some ways our grandparents as well too, they think to this about the prequels as, oh, this was just the cheap knockoff that they built to get money afterwards. Which I think it's almost the prequels were almost in some ways the perfect little stepping ground of, hey, this is still being directed by George Lucas, but it still had the budget it needed to, that what the first couple Star Wars probably didn't have, and the technology that they didn't have at the time as well too, before it all went to hell when they sold to Disney and all that. So
So you got to see that movie when you were 5.
Yeah.
Lucky.
With my parents. I think it came out May 19th, and my sister's birthday was May 18th. So I imagine it was for her birthday. And obviously, they had no clue that Anakin was going to kill children in that movie. I mean, it's Star Wars, you know?
Yeah.
And they remembered the old ones. And we didn't see the first two prequels in theaters because that came out in 99 and 2002. So I would have been not born and
Right.
3 or 2. So
It's definitely the darkest Star Wars film.
Yeah.
And you hear that? He got to see it when he was 5. I had to wait till I was 13. Thanks for that.
Oh, that's pain.
It was horrible because I think the reason. Well, sorry, I love you, Mom and Dad. But the reason why I had to wait was because in the Duel of the Fates, Battle of the Heroes, in Battle of the Heroes, which for those of you who don't know, shame on you. For those of you who do know, when Anakin is finally turned over completely to the dark side, he has to fight Obi-Wan. And near the end of their battle, when Obi-Wan has the high ground, which is such a meme now, love that. Then Anakin jumps and gets like his legs and one of his arms cut off. And he has to drag himself near lava and catches on fire. I think that scene was what made it too like visceral for, I think, one of my parents. I think my dad didn't want me to see it till I was old enough.
It is pretty gruesome. I mean, it's a man burning alive.
True.
And like you see
And
him
the effects
close.
are really good.
Very good. Like this came out in 2005. And we've already said how the beginning looks real.
And it's better than Black Widow's CGI. And
Way
that
better.
movie came out in like 2019.
Not that long ago. So yeah, that's my number 1.
That's your number 1.
Yep.
That's a good pick. That's a pretty solid pick. All right, Kendall, you're up.
all right, we're going Rise of Skywalker, number 1. Oh, that's a good one. Oh man. Oh.
Are you serious?
Of course not. I'm not serious. Who do you think I am?
I think my heart stopped for like half a second.
I'm
but-
still a bull, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right.
I'm gonna go Return of the Jedi, my number 1.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
In my opinion, this is
I like
about
it.
as close to a perfect movie as possible.
Really?
Yep. It's got
I
the
respect
best
it.
thing you like about Star Wars. You got the Ewoks walking around.
Dude, teddy bears, dude.
I do like the
Yes.
Ewoks. They are overhated for
Yes.
sure.
Yeah. And
One
they
of the
have
best game modes within.
I was literally
Battlefront
just about
2.
to say that.
You
Yeah.
have these
Ewok
Ewoks.
Hunt. It's
Yeah.
like literally like the scariest game I've ever
Yes.
played.
Absolute horror.
It's terrifying.
Just imagine running around through the middle of the night, these giant-eyed little
Like,
gremlins
small little
poking you with
bears
sticks.
poking you with sticks and throwing fireflies at you.
Yeah.
Gosh, yeah.
What a time to be alive.
Ladies and gentlemen, what a time to be alive.
You get Luke in his prime at this point as well too, so you get to see Luke with a green lightsaber. You get to see him fight Jabba. Get to see Princess Leia in her prime.
Take that for what you will.
Do what you want with that information.
Han Solo is the best he could be.
Mhm.
Chewbacca's the best he could be. The Republic, or is it the Republic?
The Rebellion
The Rebellion?
Yeah.
Soon to be the Republic, kind of.
was
the best it could be?
Was formerly yes.
They might
Technically,
even
yes.
they might
Yeah.
even say Republic in the sequels.
Well, no,
The
'cause
New Republic,
in the,
don't they call it?
Maybe
in the sequels, it's the Resistance.
yes.
But in like the Mandalorian stuff, there is like the New Republic.
okay,
Okay.
So there
that's
is
where it's okay.
that. So it's the Republic that became the Rebellion, which became the Resistance, which then became the New Republic. I think. No, wait. Something like that. That's confusing sometimes.
Too much content.
All right. We don't care about that, though, ladies and gentlemen. Here, we're just having a good time. So, what else is there to say? You blew up the Death Star again.
Again.
You get to see the final duel scene between Darth Vader and Luke, and you get to see Anakin Skywalker finally become the chosen one
That's right. That is right.
when he
Yes.
defeats the Sith. And that's where it should have ended,
Yes.
but
But it didn't.
it didn't. Again, what can I say bad about this movie, really? I just can't. Maybe Boba Fett was pretty,
Underutilized?
was fodder at
Yeah.
that point when he made such a big name for himself, at least. But other than that, can't complain at all about it. I think that's where I'm probably gonna keep it at right there. Perfect movie.
I really don't know how Boba Fett got as popular as he did.
Honestly, yeah.
Because like if you watch the original trilogy, he has like 5 lines and one of them is screaming.
Well, I think it's because of
So-
Empire Strikes Back that he's the one that captures
That is true.
Han Solo.
But like he's one of the main lackeys in Empire Strikes Back, but he's not like the main antagonist by any means.
Yeah.
So really,
He looked pretty
Yeah.
cool.
he is super cool. I love his armor. But I can respect that pick. Honestly, there's a lot of people, I would say like a lot of people who watched the original trilogy, like back when it first came out in theaters, a lot of them will have one of these 3 movies, so like one of those 3 at number 1. It's kind of interchangeable, and then everything else seems to come after it.
Yeah.
But we grew up in a different time,
That's right.
so
Some people might have an opinion where they were almost let down by Return of the Jedi just because Empire's so good. But it's
pretty good.
It's a really good movie. It's very rewatchable.
Yeah,
It's
it
more
is.
rewatchable than you would think.
Yes, I agree with that.
I don't think there's a slow moment in the movie, honestly.
Well, yeah, because it's just like
Yeah.
there's so much action that needs to be packed into it at that point. Like, and a lot of within like the first movies that came out, at least within 4, 5, and 6. Like I was just waiting the whole time. Like, okay, when is Luke going to be finally the protagonist that he needs to
Mhm.
be to
Yeah.
save the day and
Like
do all this?
Like the Jedi.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
what. Again, a lot of people love the training montage of everything, but I've always been the guy that's loved to ride that high of like that protagonist high of, okay, they're the best around. Nothing's gonna ever bring them down.
But that is a respectable pick for sure. Now,
Hit it, Christian.
that's right. I have a notebook. Look at that. I never use these things. I usually have like everything in my head, but there's so much content. Of course, I had to write down the rankings and stuff like that, where I kind of needed to do this. So, yep. You already know what it is. The best Star Wars movie, no matter what these 2 dorks say, is always going to be Empire Strikes Back. Empire is what I would say is one of the very few perfect movies in all of cinema history. It takes everything from New Hope and makes it like infinitely better. It develops all of the characters. Every character has something in this movie, except for, even like Boba Fett has more in this movie than the other 2, even if he is still underutilized. Darth Vader is given a completely new role, because imagine when you're seeing this movie for the first time, right? And you're sitting here thinking Luke is just fighting some evil space fascist, right? But then the twist comes that he's actually Luke's father. That changes, that subverts everything the audience was anticipating this entire time and flips the script on its head and changes Luke's motivation. Now Luke is more focused on saving his father in Return of the Jedi rather than killing him. It completely changes how the narrative works and how these characters interact, as well as in Return of the Jedi, the fact that we learn that Luke is Leia's sister.
Oops.
Whoops.
Cut to space, Alabama.
But there is so much love in this movie. I will say my favorite planet in all of Star Wars I've ever, games, movies, TV shows, whatever. My absolute favorite planet will always be Hoth. Hoth is so special to me. Jefferson, if you're listening to this, since he's the first person that I really shared my love of Star Wars with growing up, he and I used to have these little Star Wars toys, and we would play, and then I would have like a camera. Then I would try to make my own Star Wars movies, kind of with like a Polaroid camera, where it's so tight on the tripod that when you move it, it creaks. It goes like, but my favorite one to do, because I tried to recreate all 6 movies at the time. There were 6, and Empire was always my favorite because I loved the Hoth stuff. And Luke going out on his own, and Han is kind of dealing with the fact that he wants to run away from all the conflict that's going on in the war, but he has to deal with the fact that he cares about these people. He cares about Luke, he cares about Leia, and because of that, that keeps drawing him back. So all these things are going on, all the while the Empire is basically like at its prime, and they're striking back, basically. And you get to see more of like Darth Vader and the Emperor, and more of like their dynamic and what they're all about. And then Cloud City with Lando. Lando's like one of my favorite characters. I love Lando. And his like sarcasm. There's like, when I first watched this movie, I had to piece together, like, because I was a little kid, that Lando was betraying Han. Of course, it was a kid, so I didn't understand. But like, I was like, you know what? If I was an adult seeing this in the theater, I'd be like, that's a pretty good twist. I wouldn't have expected that at all. And then Darth Vader's in the room and he grabs the blaster. It just steals the show. And and then Luke goes to Dagobah and learns more about the Force. This is where I think we see Yoda at his absolute prime, because Yoda is like this wise old sage, where he's more just like talking about like the Force as a concept and how it's in everything, and and you're supposed to let it flow through you, but also you're supposed to put aside these certain emotions that can lead you down to the dark side. And then he's confronted with the fact that Obi-Wan basically lied to him. And so there's so much conflict among all these characters in this movie. And then Han Solo basically sacrifices himself, gets frozen in carbonite. And so there's so many good emotional moments that still impact. That's why I think this is the best Star Wars movie and one of the most perfect movies in all of film history. And I don't think that will ever change. There's just, it has its own aura about it. It's the holy grail in the treasury room full of golden treasures. Like, I mean, it's a room full of like gold, silver, jewels, but there's the golden chalice right at the end, sitting on its own pedestal. And that's what this movie is to me. Star Wars is great. The world is great. There's so much good around it, but it stands on its own as this is the pinnacle of what Star Wars is.
It's the perfect sequel. It's
That too.
arguably the best sequel. It would easily have it if Terminator 2 didn't exist.
That's true.
But, and I'd say Empire's probably like most people's favorite, but not for like, bandwagoning purposes. It's just critically like a phenomenal movie.
Yeah.
It's just a good movie.
Yeah.
I've known people who don't like Star Wars very much, and they still like Empire Strikes Back.
Yep.
Anyways, that's my number one. That's my favorite one. So,
All right, I'll hit number 2 off then.
okay.
Straight off. I'll do Revenge of the Sith.
Go.
Okay, yeah.
Again, Revenge of the Sith, just like everything that Zach said about it, just so epic. And like I feel like Anakin was such a relatable character within all this, more than I feel like more than anybody else. I feel like in the franchise, like he's trying to struggle with the idea that you have to be a good, pure Jedi, but is that the way to go? Like, what if the world falls apart tomorrow? Am I strong enough to be able to do all this? And I think the Clone Wars shows it as well too, but basically he's carrying the whole entire war on his back.
Yeah.
And he wants to have the respect and right that he needs to have.
Mm-hmm.
And he asks for it, and they deny him. And you have Mace Windu, a very careless leader in general within the whole entire series, that a lot of times would jeopardize the whole entire war because of his carelessness. And you have Anakin that kind of bootstrapped his way up and fought through this whole war while everybody was sitting on their cushy chairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's really the one who did most of the work.
Yeah, and everybody's like, well, he's a warmonger. He's not a real Jedi. He's a warmonger. He just did what you ordered him to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
at the end of the
that's
day.
basically it.
And the Chancellor shows some interest in him and says, "Hey, I understand everything you've done for the Republic. Man, you're the best, man.
Around.
Nothing will ever bring you down."
Except me. Except me. You know, it really is. It's like 50%, maybe even more, Mace Windu's fault that Anakin turns.
It really
Yeah.
is.
Because even at the end, Anakin's still willing, he wants to just arrest the Chancellor and let him stand
have
trial.
an actual trial.
Yeah, and that's the Jedi way. And Mace Windu is just, he's like, no, he's too dangerous to be left alive.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize, how big a mistake that was.
Now, like, is there a contradiction there with the fact that Anakin killed Dooku? Because like it could have been because of Palpatine's influence in the moment.
Right.
But you could also argue that maybe in the moment, maybe Darth Sidious, I mean, from our perspective, of course Darth Sidious needed to die. But Anakin's trying to do the right thing, but I also think he's letting his bias say, oh, well, even though he's a bad guy, he's kind of been like this father figure to me this whole time. So
Right.
like we need to at least let him be fair. And Mace Windu's like, he's like the definition of what went wrong with the Jedi Order.
Yeah.
Because at least Yoda was to some degree able to like adapt, and after he left in exile, like kind of say, okay, well, this is still what we're about, but we kind of have to change the way we do things. Whereas Mace Windu was pretty hard about.
Yeah.
He's very strict, and I think that caused him to be blind and
Yeah.
arrogant.
Okay.
So
I thought you were going to mean that Dooku let him win.
no.
I thought that's what you were
I-
saying about
no.
the whole deal, because I've heard some theories about that as well too. That like since like Dooku's mentor was sitting right next to him
Yeah.
during this whole time, that it was going to be like, okay, I'll lose, so Anakin can be the future of this organization, or I don't know
Yeah.
if that's
I
the word
saw.
for it or not.
Yeah. I mean, it's
but
a
he's
very
like-
interesting theory.
But yeah, but at the same time, like I think you got to think that Anakin was the best.
Mhm.
Like literally, that's what he's kind of propped up to be, like in the Clone Wars series.
Absolutely.
That he
yeah.
is like the pinnacle. Like it even shows like in the Obi-Wan series that comes back that like Anakin was better than him.
Yeah.
Like they would spar and stuff, and he was the master. But like even as a Padawan, like he was still extremely well versed and very strong in the Force and all of
He-
this. So, and then you also pair that up with he's had to fight Dooku for several years of his life at this point.
Yeah.
And it's like every time I let him go, he always somehow gets out of the magical cell and goes off and starts fighting again.
Right.
And it becomes a thorn in the side of the whole deal. So I feel like he had more motivation to do the whole pull the scissors of the lightsabers to decapitate him. But
I would say Anakin Skywalker, not necessarily Darth Vader, but Anakin Skywalker. This is a really weird analogy, so I apologize for this beforehand. But he's kind of like the Aaron Rodgers of Star Wars. And what I mean by that is
he does a lot of mushrooms.
like he does a lot. he has to do a darkness retreat.
Yes, goes
you
on
know?
darkness
Dark-
retreats.
Did he-
Just gonna say
He
that.
kind of does. But he's like the most talented like Jedi or quarterback that we've ever seen. But like his heart's not always in the right place, and he's not the best leader. He has many traits that hold him back emotionally. But then once he becomes Darth Vader, I'm like, Darth Vader's Tom Brady and Emperor Palpatine is Bill Belichick. That's what it really is. But anyways, yeah, I totally agreed. Like, Anakin was like the pinnacle of what it meant to like be like a powerful Jedi. He had the most latent potential, I think.
And I think this is kind of political in some ways as well too, where it's like, oh, the whole entire con was pulled. That
Yeah.
happened was, okay, we're gonna somehow plant in the Jedi's mind that they need to build this giant army to be able to try to fight the Confederacy. Is that what it is? CIS?
The separatists.
Separatists.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the Confederacy. Got the mid and gray, baby.
But people from Alabama are going to hate this podcast before the end of it.
Roll Tide.
That's funny.
Oh gosh, but
I can just imagine.
where was I at with this? But okay, wrap it up. Last little thoughts on this. The idea that he had a love interest and he wasn't supposed to share that at all, but he really wanted to stop this war. All of this perfect moment was set up where the Jedi basically built this whole army and conquered the whole galaxy already. So it's just easy just to go ahead and turn it around on the Jedi and kick them out of the picture when we already have the army already built at this point.
Brilliant.
And then the idea of having such great dialogue throughout this whole deal, like, you brought him here to go against me.
You turned her against me.
You have done that yourself.
Gosh, the dialogue is still.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
That,
Yes.
sir, is an absolute.
No.
Master Windu said so.
But Zach, number 2.
Oh, wait. What did you rate Revenge of the Sith out of 10?
Oh, I thought we were talking about that at the end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we probably should because I didn't rate.
Yeah.
Oh,
either.
that's
I
right.
haven't rated yet.
So for some reason, I thought we were
Hey,
doing
you
it
did-
like after the movie.
Yeah.
I did, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Because
that's
everyone knows what Empire really is, don't we?
fine.
I'm looking at you all.
All right. My number 2.
Yep.
Empire Strikes Back.
Yay!
It's, I mean, everything Christian said. Such a good movie. I can't imagine what it was like in theaters whenever he says, "No, I am your father." I mean, just ultimate twist. It's a much better. It's a huge jump in the lightsaber fight between Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader in A New Hope because it's just just over and over again. They don't really do anything else. But lightsabers were cool enough back in the day, so.
Yeah.
But then Luke versus Vader the first time, such a step up, such an awesome moment. And it's on Cloud City, such a cool environment, that fight. It's such a good movie. I can't emphasize, how good it is.
And it's really cool to see how, even with the fight with Luke and Darth Vader, that Vader was really kind of playing around with him.
Mhm.
Because although he was trying, like he was saying, like the whole time, he's like, "Oh, like you're kind of impressive, and you've grown, but you're not a real Jedi."
Yeah, you're nothing yet.
And playing all the games and seeing all the people he's gone up against that are in canon, like you can definitely tell, like Luke is definitely an amateur.
Yeah.
But Vader was trying to because the Sith have this whole thing where there's like the rule of 2, where where the Sith rule is you're only supposed to have 2 Sith, because if there's more than 2, then they all get too power hungry and they all kill each other anyways. So 2 is like,
or they weaken themselves
Yeah,
basically because
right.
you got to have like the most elite alive at the point, and
right. And so having 2 kind of just creates this small forced in environment where, there's master and apprentice, and then eventually it switches.
well, apprentice kills master.
It gets like replaced. So, and it just keeps moving like that. And so generally what they do is the Sith apprentice will usually take on their own apprentice in secret. And the funny thing is that the Sith masters always know that the apprentice is going to take an apprentice, but it's all about who they choose and why. And so his So his intention was to make Luke his new apprentice, or kind of in Return of the Jedi, make him Emperor Palpatine's new apprentice to like replace him. And so with that in mind, like that whole twist is just mind blowing, because then that creates a connection between the two characters that is really hard to break.
And probably never seen before in movies.
No.
At least to my knowledge. You know, I mean, that came out in 80, I believe, 1980. So there's a lot of movies that have came up before then, but they never, I don't think they've ever done that, at least to that level, or that popularity. Right. And I have to say, Empire Strikes Back would be my number one if I didn't have just such a strong connection to Revenge of the Sith. But it's number 2.
Okay. Interesting. Oh, wait, it's my turn. That's right. Number 2.
He's flipping over his book for his notes very meticulously.
I'm going to do this every single time because I really enjoy just looking at my own list. That's how egotistical I am, I guess.
And he has to always put it all the way back
ready?
to and wrap the string around that he has.
All right. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Number 2, The Last Jedi. I love this movie. I don't care what anybody says. It is a flawed movie. It is a very flawed movie, but that doesn't hold it back from being one of my favorite Star Wars experiences I ever had in a theater, and to this day. Shout out to Cosmonaut Variety Hour.
Yes.
If you haven't ever heard of him, please check him out. He does a lot of movie reviews. He explains my thoughts on the movie like very well, or like he like encapsulates all of my personal thoughts, which is this movie was by far the most divisive Star Wars movie that ever existed. The fan base were really like, I believe that there are some people who thought it was a masterpiece, some people who thought it was the worst Star Wars movie to ever be made. I don't know why. And a lot of people were just like, oh, like it's fine, like it's flawed, it's got like and I understand that. But I could literally do an entire podcast episode about this movie. So I'm going to try to shorten my thoughts as much as I can. Visually, it is one of the most impressive Star Wars movies that there is. I would say the only Star Wars movies that come close to like impressive like visual effects and things like that would probably be Revenge of the Sith, because of its time period that it came out, and probably Rogue One. I would say those 3 are probably the most gorgeous looking films in the whole franchise. So, at this point, for those of you who have not seen, after Luke beats Darth Vader and Darth Vader kills Palpatine, then, everything's happy for a while until there's an awakening in the Force. Han Solo and Leia have a kid named Ben Solo, and Ben Solo is being trained by Luke Skywalker, and along with other kids. And he eventually gets too much darkness in him that he was being influenced by a character named Snoke, which has a very mysterious origin at that point. And then all of a sudden he burned the entire temple down, killed all the other ones, and Luke left into exile. So Rey, this random girl on Jakku, she in the Force Awakens film, she kind of comes into her own as being Force sensitive. In the second movie, she is pursuing. She's trying to pursue training from Luke Skywalker because he went to exile, so she went to go find him. And this movie changes the way that Luke Skywalker operates, because go figure, because Yoda's like this too. Even no matter how old you are, no matter how many experiences you have, no matter how wise you are, you can still learn something. So she is in the struggle of trying to save Kylo, and also being trained by Luke, who doesn't really want to train her because he's like, the Jedi Order is ended, our arrogance has destroyed us. And I think this movie does a great job of challenging our perception of what a Star Wars movie actually is supposed to be. People hated that twist in the movie where Snoke, who's the main, he's the main antagonist of the movie, is killed by Kylo Ren. And people hated it because like, oh, like Snoke was built up to be this main antagonist. That's not true. Kylo was always the main antagonist. He was always the focus on that end. And so then it became more of a gray area because then he talks to Rey about how, forget the Jedi, forget the Sith, forget all of that. Let's just build the whole galaxy as we think it should be. And people hated that twist, but that whole like subverting your expectations is what works so well for Empire Strikes Back. And Rian Johnson, the director, actually mentioned something just like that about how like that's supposed to, it's not subverting your expectations just because, but it's supposed to service the plot. And it's supposed to challenge your perception of what the Star Wars universe means to you. And it mystifies the Force. I'm going on a really long tangent here. And this is just because I know it's the most divisive, so I have to talk about it a lot. Luke makes mistakes, but at the end, he decides to do like this Force projection thing where then he is able to confront Kylo and help the resistance escape. And then his Force projection is so powerful that it ended up killing him. And I think that's a great ending for Luke because in the movie, when he's so resentful trying to train Rey, and it turns out that Luke almost killed Kylo Ren in his sleep when he was still training to be a Padawan, Yoda confronts him as a Force ghost and says failure is the greatest teacher. And so anybody can change. So I think it challenges how we see like the hero and the protagonist of the story, that Luke is not perfect and he is not incapable of making bad choices. And so him learning from that and him learning to replace himself back in the fold, I think is fantastic storytelling. The only thing I don't like about the movie is Canto Bight, the stuff with Finn and Rose. That stuff drags. Rose is a really misplaced character, and it's even worse that in The Rise of Skywalker, they just delete her from the movie, basically. She's in there, but they basically like erase her. So that whole stuff is kind of weird. And Poe, I like a lot of Poe stuff, that Poe has to learn that war is bad and you can't just risk everything all the time. So I'm basically explaining the whole movie, but that's all my thoughts. I think this movie is fantastic because it challenges what we expect from a Star Wars film, and it has some of my favorite scenes and dialogue from all of Star Wars.
It's definitely when I first saw these in theaters, I thought Force Awakens was better. It's a safer movie, and I thought Last Jedi was okay. But rewatching it, in Force Awakens, Snoke's barely in the movie, and he's just, as a hologram. And I remember, being hyped to find out like what Snoke's all about. But really, like, he's not in Force Awakens much. And so I guess people got hyped on the mystery, for like, they had this expectation in Last Jedi to like see Snoke be this ultimate bad guy. But it's really not that much of a letdown to me because I love that scene where Kylo kills him because it's such good character building for Kylo. And it's just rewatching him. You don't even think about like, wow, Snoke was nothing. At least I didn't. I thought it was very appropriate. And like Force Awakens and Last Jedi work very well as a 1-2 punch. They're clearly like Rian Johnson did a good job of making a sequel and challenging. Like it's divisive, but I really don't know why after watching it again. It's a good movie.
Yeah, because everyone thinks that they just butchered Luke's character. And I'm like, no, it's good for him to have growth. Even in his old age, even after everything he's gone through, it's good for him to still be able to learn to do better.
Yeah.
You have any thoughts on The Last Jedi at all? Or are you waiting to get into it later?
I had to hype you up a tad bit there at the beginning, but I'm going to double and give it to the next guy.
TikTok joke.
Gen Z, whoa, I'm coming in here hot.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Go ahead and hit number 3 for
Oh,
yourself.
okay. All right. I'm going in number 3.
Yes, sir.
All right. I'm gonna reopen the notebook. Again.
The
I may as well just
popcorn
keep,
reading.
I may as well just like keep it open or something. But I don't want you to.
We're gonna have to cut 5 minutes out of this podcast just for you meticulously opening your book over and
Here.
over again.
Well, because
golly,
I fidget around sometimes, so I'll like retie it and do stuff. And then, okay, so I'll leave it like this. That way, I can just flip it open every
There
single
you
time.
go.
All right. Number 3, Return of the Jedi. I love this movie. To reiterate some of the thoughts that you had on it, this is a great Star Wars movie that really builds character for a lot of its main characters. Luke is finally at his prime, where he's wise. He's gone through things. He's gone through a lot of training, and he has a better perspective on how everything operates and how he should operate as a Jedi. And his skills are way better too. And besides, green lightsaber Luke is pretty good.
Very aesthetically
so-
pleasing with
oh,
the black
Yes.
wardrobe.
So cool. I think for most of my life, I always wanted a green lightsaber. Whenever I played pretend Star Wars for Star Wars with toys with my friend Jefferson, he would always have the blue lightsaber. I would always have the green lightsaber. That was kind of our dynamic. So, I love the Ewoks. I love how all these stormtroopers, which have armor and laser guns, can be killed or knocked out by rocks. I mean, it's kind of dumb, but I honestly just go with it because it's fun. I love when
it's the Ewoks.
It's the
They have the
Ewoks.
muscle.
That's right.
Have you ever seen an Ewok do push-ups? That's why you
Dude.
don't need to see them do push-ups. That's how strong they are.
dude, all
Climb around
they
trees
do
all
is-
day long.
Dude, gains all day is what they do. It's gains.
All those plants full of protein, 20 grams of protein per serving in all those trees.
I love that they make C3PO like a god.
Yeah.
It's so funny because like I think Luke like levitates the chair, and
Yep.
so all the Ewoks are like, "Oh, the golden god." And it gives C3PO a lot more to do in this movie because
Yeah.
in the beginning, him and R2 have to go and basically talk to Jabba, and then the bounty hunter comes in, which is actually Leia, to free Han Solo, and then Luke Skywalker comes in to kill the. It's a little complicated, but it works because this is high value entertainment. They have like AT-ATs or ATSTs, one of those. That they have to take down on the city of or the moon of Endor. But I think the big highlight of this movie is Luke finally figures out who he is and what he's about. Han Solo finally figures out who he is and what he's about and how much he loves Leia, and officially being like, I am with the rebellion. Now there's some dumb stuff in this movie, like the Empire doesn't really do a whole lot. Like in the opening crawl, it says like the Jedi or like the rebellion is overwhelmed by the Empire, but they don't really explain that like at
Yeah.
all, which is fine. But and then later on, Darth Vader like approaches Emperor Palpatine, and he's like the rebels have invaded the moon event, and they've done this and that, and Emperor Palpatine just swivels around on his chair and goes, "Yeah, I know."
I think it's fitting.
All
like
right.
again, like you put all your investment in one basket here with the building a whole entire planet-sized spaceship, and
Yeah.
somebody shoots one ill-placed bomb,
Yeah.
and the whole entire thing blows up. My quarrel with Empire Strikes Back, but
Yeah, but explained in Rogue One, so there is that. But and then at the climax of this film, the fight scene between Luke and Darth Vader is just, I think it's my favorite Star Wars duel in the entire franchise. I love it because there's so much emotion. The music, oh my gosh, the music in this one particularly is really good because I honestly think that this has the best music out of all the movies. Sorry, Revenge of the Sith. Sorry, Empire Strikes Back, which is my favorite film. But the music when Luke is fighting Vader is like haunting and so much emotion into it. And Luke finally beats him out of rage.
Yeah.
Out of rage because Darth Vader calls out, he calls out, I mean, his own daughter, basically. And so Luke gets angry and he finally cuts off Darth Vader's hand, sees that it's robotic just like his. And then while Emperor Palpatine is like, it's like, good, strike him down. He finally, just in a moment of realization, he throws his lightsaber away and says, I am a Jedi like my father before me. That's the best line in all of Star Wars. I don't care who says what. That's the best line in all of Star Wars.
It's a very good line.
And it shows what the Jedi are all about. And
Giving up at the very end. Never being able to quite finish the job.
We fight to run away from Pirates of the Caribbean, if you don't know. So and then the Emperor strikes him down. He gets force lightning on him, and Vader fulfills the prophecy and kills Emperor Palpatine. Not really, but kind of. And then it's a happy ending. It's just a happy ending.
Yeah.
Nice music plays. It's on Endor, and it's just, the ending feels right. And then Vader and Luke finally have like a normal conversation, and then you see Anakin's Force ghost. It's just like it's the perfect ending to a Star Wars.
They're all
movie.
dancing on with all
the Force ghosts.
and all the Ewoks. Oh man, what I would have done back in the day to have one of those muscular little munchkins in my house.
Oh my gosh, dancing to all the mixers, you know.
Yeah. Love the addition of Hayden Christensen as the Force Ghost.
In the remastered version. Yeah, I do too. So it's just very endearing.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's my number 3.
Okay.
Return of the Jedi.
I'll jump into my number 3 here. My number 3 is Rogue One.
Okay.
We got Rogue One. We have, like you had mentioned, we understand the plot device of what Empire Strikes Back is. That there was a shaft that was built into it, that the plans are then eventually transported to the rebellion saying, hey, there's a way to destroy this world-ending deal because I'm with the rebellion at the end of the day. You get the addition to the special operations troopers. Like, all throughout Star Wars, you've heard like, oh, the stormtroopers are terrible shots. They're trash. They're mid.
Skill issue.
Skill issue.
But you finally have some stormtroopers that come out that are like taking care of business every day.
Yeah.
Taking care of business and working overtime.
That's right.
And not getting paid for it because it's conscription.
You get really cool fight scenes. It is kind of like, this movie felt like a refresher because it's not like I'm trying to copy something. Like, I felt like within the new sequels and stuff, every single movie was trying to copy something in some way, shape, or form. This wasn't, it didn't feel like it was trying to copy anything at all. It felt like it was its own franchise or its own little just short movie to give a nice little refresher for everything that is going to happen.
Yeah.
Characters
totally
are
agree.
likable. Characters didn't need to be the chosen one
Yeah.
at the end of the day. They were good just being, hey, I'm going to complete this very, very small mission that will lead up to be something a lot bigger than what we could ever imagine in the future.
Yeah. And none of the protagonists had a lightsaber.
Yep.
So, but there were a lot of characters in that movie though.
Yeah, there was.
I don't remember the names of all of them.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be
Yeah.
honest.
I remember that's the main 3, of course, but
Yeah.
that's what I'm just remembering, I guess, on my end of things.
What was your favorite part of that movie?
I think, of course, the very ending, they're on that cool water planet. That was probably one of my
Scarif?
yeah, that's probably one of my favorite planets of all time. They're all just
Yeah.
like,
It's just a beach.
yeah, it's just
One
a
big beach.
just one big beach. Like,
Yeah.
that's a lot better than just a rainy planet. It's just, yeah, who
Yeah.
wouldn't want to live there?
It's a very nice
But they have to
aesthetic.
have a war there. But
Too
but
bad
they-
it's no longer there.
yeah.
Oops.
Whoops.
We must test the Death Star.
Now, I will
Introduction
say,
to the Death Star. Cool.
Yeah.
yeah, that made the Death Star, I think, scarier than it ever had been.
Yeah. Well, didn't give it much context because George Lucas didn't have time to think through all of it. That's a lot of like what this was, and I think he mentions it too. But it's like eventually you get deeper in with it. But like the whole idea that the green lightsaber was a thing was they had Luke with a blue lightsaber, but they were doing an outside scene. It's like, man, this is blending too much in with the blue sky. How about we just make it green? Why should we make it green? I'll make up why it's green later.
And then it became canon.
That's right.
And now we have multiple lightsaber colors, like purple, because Samuel L. Jackson just wanted a purple lightsaber.
That's right.
So isn't it funny how things like that happen?
It's like, oh, he wanted a purple lightsaber, so he has a mixture of the dark side and Jedi Knight in him.
Yeah.
Ah.
It's red and blue.
That's right. Okay. So do you have any more thoughts on Rogue One?
I think we'll cover it probably when you guys talk through it a little bit more as well too. But this is my third movie. Again, we're taking up some time here, so let's get through this. And
That's right. And this is supposed to be a long one. This is all just for
we're
deep dive into these.
We're about at
movies.
1 hour right now, so
All right. We're really getting into it
we're
now.
only in 3. And I'm gonna guess we're gonna spend a lot longer on our least favorite. But
All right.
good, Zach.
Well, going right into it. My number 3, also Rogue One.
Nice. All right.
This
I-
guy,
I love Rogue
This
One.
guy right here. I'll tell you what.
It's such a good standalone movie. It feels different from the normal movies, and yet it's still Star Wars, like clearly still Star Wars.
Yep.
And so they proved that they can make a separate story without relying on Skywalker, Obi-Wan, Luke, and
Jedi.
and Jedi.
Jebediah.
Jebediah.
Oh, Jedi.
But it's
People from Alabama still. Oh, those bowls.
you gotta be kidding me. I'm unsubscribing. But Rogue One, it's just, I think a lot of people, if you don't like it, you might think it's boring, but I wholeheartedly disagree. I
Yeah.
am all in. It's very good dialogue, very good writing, just a solid movie. Everything you said, Scarif, awesome planet, awesome battle. It's a long battle that follows a lot of different people, and like every single person, there's great tension, and all the deaths are great. It's very much like Halo Reach because everybody dies.
Yeah.
And it's
That's what
that makes it relatable because I love Halo Reach.
Yeah.
And it's just so dynamic characters, and they go well together. And of course, the second best scene in all of Star Wars at the end, showing Vader going on the Rebel ship,
Oh man.
and you get
Going
Vader
ham.
actually going ham, and you're like, okay, that's Anakin,
Yeah.
because he is whipping that lightsaber around, just destroying these rebels.
Yeah.
And just using the Force with the lightsaber. It's such a good scene. And it's so, he's coming. You hear him breathing, but whenever that lightsaber lights up, it's such a good looking scene. So terrifying. And it's like, yeah,
It is.
that's
Oh.
Darth Vader.
Only thing that would have made it better is just like the younglings put up a better fight.
Yeah, when are we going to get a full on youngling scene?
There's a deleted scene somewhere in there where they're
Yeah.
all fighting.
Come on, George.
I stabbed me in the back.
Hashtag save the Lucas cut.
Yeah,
Save
Rogue
the-
One. Such a good movie.
That last scene is really something else.
Yeah, it's
Especially since like the music swells a lot in that scene. And could you imagine like being on the other side of that door whenever it closes,
Absolute
just seeing people
fear.
just get, just they're just getting wrecked. I would sit there and just, if I was just some rebel soldier, I'm like, yeah, I'm dead.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing I'm gonna do. How do you fight that? You
and
can't.
So it's kind of a plot hole, in A New Hope, having this ultimate weakness in the Death Star. It's like, okay, how did they allow just this one spot where a bomb could go in? So it fixes that plot hole, but
It does.
also there's like a single line in either A New Hope or probably A New Hope, and maybe Leia says it. She says like something along the lines of, "You have no idea how much it took to get these plans," and they made an entire movie on it. And
Yeah.
like it takes a lot because all the main characters die. They blow up Scarif, so everyone who was in the area gets killed. All the rebels get killed that are trying to get the floppy disk to or to get to Leia
Or
It's such-
Cortana.
Yeah, Cortana. Yep,
Oh,
another Halo reference.
the Halo theme starts falling.
Yeah, very good movie.
All right, so are we on to number 4?
We're on number 4. I could go ahead and hit number 4 then.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to do Empire Strikes Back for my number 4.
All right.
again, kudos to all you guys saying on that of it. But again, like I'm gonna say, there's just a lot of plot holes and maybe corniness in some aspects of Empire Strikes Back that I'm not gonna be a giant fan of. Again, like I thought that was kind of pretty goofy. Like have one great planned bomb that destroys the whole entire Death Star, but it's explained, and I like that in Rogue One. Main reason why I probably liked it a lot. The Luke, I'm your father situation, again, being younger, I've seen it spoofed so many different times before I even actually watched the movie.
Yeah.
That it was like, that was it. Like, this is what this was
Right,
about.
yeah.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah, that makes sense.
and
That's
again,
fair.
I just think that's like the comedy aspect that where it's not in my generation type
Right.
deal.
And we have the prequel perspective, so we already know.
Yeah. So
That is true.
there's that. Again, I do kind of like Hans kind of has to sacrifice himself. That's a really neat process of things. I'm trying to see what other core roles I had because again, we've kind of hyped this movie up a lot. I'm just trying to think of things that I could put it down for a little bit. There's still not a lot you can say about it though. At the end of the day,
Well, of course it's not. It's perfect.
I don't like that not everybody's in their prime as well too. Like again, there's so much satisfaction I had within Luke being what he does end up becoming. But I kind of like the symbolism of getting his hand cut off as well too. I thought that was really neat. That
Yeah.
like again they bring that back later in time where it's like, well, Anakin gets his arm cut off as well too, just in a very similar type fashion in some ways.
Right.
And that was a good way for the prequels to kind of bring back some references, but not overbear it in a lot of ways. Where I thought the after aspect of things, the last three that they created was more they just wanted to recopy what Star Wars was and make it look cooler and call it good.
Yeah. And
You can tell that the sequels rely on more fan service, whereas the prequels, there's not a lot of fan service, which that's more a modern thing, to have fan service because you're referencing other stuff. But the prequels were made to hold their own and to truly introduce Anakin.
yeah. And the scene where Luke gets his hand cut off works even without the prequels even being made. Because even in Return of the Jedi, when Darth Vader gets his hand cut off, it's the same one.
Yeah.
And it's robotic. And we have no context before that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So even that is effective enough on its own.
Yeah.
And it makes it better. Because like I'm looking back and I'm basing all these movies on as a whole. Now that we have all the 9 films plus the 2 extra films, now we can see how everything is affected as a whole. And because of that, some films have gone up in my list and others have gone down. So, anyways, I agree with your point. That's my conclusion with that. So, all right.
All right, Zach, hit us number 4.
My number 4, The Last Jedi.
Yeah, heck
Also-
yeah, baby.
Also my favorite movie from the sequels.
That's good.
And for the same reasons that Christian stated, I also agree with most of Cosmonaut Variety Hour's points.
Yeah.
Luke was not done dirty. I thought it was very fitting, to have this master Jedi, a legend, to have he made some mistakes. He thought he could hone in Ben Solo, and he ends up making a mistake. That one moment of pure instinct.
Yeah.
And then that's what gets him in trouble. And the casino scene is, I hated it a lot more in theaters. Second time watching it, but just this week watching it again. Rose is a little overhated. She's not overbearing. It's just, she's bundled in with the casino scene. And honestly, I can't remember the actor's name, but the guy who plays the code breaker.
Oh, Benedicio del Toro?
Yes.
Something like that?
Awful character. I hated his character.
DJ.
He has just weird characterization, and it's just pointless. It doesn't lead to anything other than Finn getting caught and fighting Captain Phasma.
Yeah.
It's admittedly, kind of a cool scene,
It is really cool.
beating Brienne of Tarth. But yeah, I like Last Jedi a lot. It's my favorite of the sequels. And I have to mention this before I forget. My whole list is like split into 3s. So like 1 is one trilogy, 2 is another trilogy, 3 is another trilogy, and it's that same order the rest of the way. with the two spin-offs thrown in there.
Okay.
It's like trilogy. One certain trilogy is 1, 4, and 7, and then 2, 5, 8, and then 3, 6, 9.
Interesting.
Unintentionally.
Wow, that's really
It's a
interesting.
very weird list.
All right. What was your favorite part about the Last Jedi? Because I really
Definitely.
need to hear it.
Definitely, this is my favorite part in theaters, and my favorite part outside of theaters is Rey and Kylo teaming up,
That's
fighting,
really cool.
fighting the guards after Snoke gets that whole scene. It's very good tension, and Snoke saying, "I can feel him turning his lightsaber," and like he turns his own lightsaber while using the Force to turn the lightsaber near Snoke. and
Really
kills
clever.
him. Very clever to kind of hide his true intention, and such a good scene. I don't like the lightsaber styles because it's a lot slower than the prequels. I'm just a huge fan of it because it's awesome choreography. But out of the 3 sequels, it's my favorite saber scene, and just them teaming up is so cool.
It is
And
really
it
cool.
builds a lot of character for Kylo because he can tell he's extremely unique because he's always working both sides.
Yeah,
and I
he's
think-
very conflicted.
Yeah,
most
and
of the
I
time.
think it's peak Kylo in The Last Jedi.
And I do want to say in that movie, also one of the best things is when we were under the assumption that Rey was nobody. I think that worked the absolute best in its favor because conceptually, thank you, Cosmonaut Variety Hour, for pointing this out. But conceptually, the Force shouldn't have a bias for what bloodline you came from
Yeah.
in order to be able to harness the Force. And so the whole concept of Rey is nobody, and Kylo told her, like, I've seen your parents, they're nobody. That worked because, one, that's kind of a twist because we were all expecting, oh, it's Luke or oh, it's Obi-Wan or whoever. But the idea that it could be nobody at all, just some bad parents that left her, would have been the best because it just shows that anybody in the whole galaxy can be chosen by the Force for greatness.
All
But
you have to
that
do is
isn't-
listen.
That isn't the case, though, right?
Hmm.
Isn't Rey shown to be like an ancestor, or isn't Palpatine her
And-
grandfather or something?
Yeah,
Right.
the Rise of Skywalker. Yeah,
Because they
Yeah.
retcon.
because they retconned.
We'll get to
it.
that later.
Okay.
Yeah, because in the Rise of Skywalker they changed
Yeah.
that
Because
'Cause it's
Spielberg
more-
said
yeah.
no.
it's more of a reaction to the Last Jedi
Yeah,
than it is its own
sadly.
thing, which is why you can tell that sequel trilogy really wasn't planned out.
Nope.
But anyways, do you have any more thoughts on the Last Jedi?
No, not really. I'll save the rest of my thoughts for once we get to Rise of Skywalker because they kind of Rise of Skywalker.
It kind of goes hand in hand.
yeah, because it contradicts it.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that later, much later.
All right. So I already opened this up earlier, so I don't have to do it now. My number 4 is Solo, a Star Wars story. I love this one. It's fun. A lot of people hate on it. They're just kind of mean. I think this is what I would call just a good Star Wars movie. It is a good Star Wars movie. I think that the main actor actually does fairly well as Han Solo. He says some lines in there where I'm like, yeah, that's Han Solo.
Yeah.
And seeing him actually start to build his, like, the more kind parts of his personality, where he's like, he's not just some smuggler, he's not just some outlaw. Like, he actually does care about doing the right thing sometimes. And even like at the end of the movie, when he's offered to join the soon-to-be rebellion, kind of, he still turns it down and says, "Yeah, I'm not really about that." But
Force calls him back.
the Force calls him. But there's so many. There are great visual effects in this movie. There are great practical effects in this movie. They use a ton of practical effects that I think are fantastic.
They do.
Donald Glover as Lando is like,
That's good.
that's perfect.
That was good. I
love
liked it.
that.
I liked it.
Yeah.
If you don't know who Donald
I
Glover
like it.
is,
Childish Gambino.
Childish Gambino.
That's right. The man, the myth, the legend. So
I think he's a dang good actor for being a rapper.
he is. Yeah. And So Solo, he got his name from, like, I really like that he got his name just out of a whim. Like, he's trying to leave Corellia, so he enlists for the Imperial Army because he wants to be a pilot, so he can eventually escape and then come back and get Kira. But this guy says, so Han, like, what is your last name? Who are your people? And he says, I have no people. He's like, okay, Han Solo. And I was like, that's kind of, there are probably some people who didn't like that, but I was like, that works for me. That's fine.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be some epic thing explaining his family.
Yeah. It still doesn't explain how he knows the Wookiee language, but this and Rogue One are both films that kind of introduce like a war type aspect to, like, oh yeah, these are Star Wars. Like, there is war going on. It's not just Jedi versus Sith. There are people involved.
It affects the entire universe.
Right, exactly. So now one of the big qualms I have with this movie is it's kind of dark, and not in the sense of like the tone, because it's a really lighthearted film, but visually, like, a lot of the tones like of the screen are very dark, so it's a little hard to see.
Yep.
But he gets like thrown right in the middle of this action scene, blasting rebels, and he comes upon Tobias Beckett and his crew, where he eventually gets his gun from. And then he comes across Chewbacca after he's basically betrayed by the crew first. And he speaks Wookiee. Their interaction's fantastic. You can see their chemistry like build up more and more in the movie, and their reputation. And you can you can see that he learns a lot of his cleverness and lessons from this crew leader, this crew captain, for most of the movie. The train heist scene is super good. I love watching it every time. Dryden Voss, aka what is it, Paul Bettany, who plays Vision, is a really different type of character because he's not a character that wields a lightsaber, and like Kira's kind of like playing both sides, and that's kind of strange. Now they do have this droid character that's like L3, where she's kind of like a droid's rights activist, which is fine, but it fits really strangely into this movie.
Yeah.
So there's these robots that are like duking it out, and she's like, "You're sentient, you can free yourself." And then she has like some really weird interactions with Lando, which I don't really want to go into discussion about.
It's the most sexual innuendos in any Star Wars movie.
Yeah, especially between a human and a non-human.
And a droid, yeah.
And it's strange.
Odd.
But anyways, so the atmosphere is fun. A lot of these characters are fun. The villain is part of this crime syndicate, which is a part of these other bunches of groups, which is explained more in like the TV shows. And so I think this movie is just good Star Wars popcorn fun. I think it's absolutely harmless. And although it may not be like objectively the best Star Wars film, I find myself always really enjoying it every time I watch it. And plus, the music slaps. The music pops off. And especially like the Emphas Nest stuff. I'm like, this is freaking awesome. And they do the Kessel Run, and that's so entertaining. It made like ship stuff entertaining again. So that's my number 4. I like this movie. So now we're on to number 5, aren't we?
Yes. Yeah.
We are. So who's going to start us off?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Who is starting us off with number 5?
I picked Zach.
All right.
All right.
All right.
My number 5, I think it's going to be way higher than 90% of people's lists. My number 5 is Attack of the Clones.
Whoa.
Yes.
You're dead serious.
I am dead serious.
Okay. Interesting.
Keep in mind, huge prequels fan. And to me, the prequels is Star Wars. Like, when I hear Star Wars, I think prequels. And Attack of the Clones is really weird. It starts off really weird. You have Anakin, and it's played by Hayden Christensen for the first time because he's a kid in Phantom Menace. And you can tell that the writing is not good. I mean, it's not good at all, really. And Hayden kind of struggles But it's not all his fault. I mean, he just has bad lines, and you can tell that George Lucas can't write a romance sequence, and that's probably why most people don't like this movie, is because half of it is building up Anakin and Padme, and it's very cringy and awkward. And yet I still love the music, and I love their theme song. It's called Across the Stars. It's a very good John Williams piece, and it's a very good looking movie. I love the colors. I love the colors of all the prequels. And Obi-Wan is way better in Attack of the Clones character-wise than in The Phantom Menace. He doesn't do a lot in The Phantom Menace other than the end, which is very good. But as a character, he's a lot better. And you can tell that him and Hayden have a decent amount of chemistry. Like, and it's assumed that he's been training Anakin, for years, and that Anakin's gotten a lot better. I love Camino and Django and Boba Fett.
Yep.
Very cool scene. I think it's underrated, honestly. And that's why I have Attack of the Clones so high, is even with the very low lows on Naboo, Camino and Geonosis carry for me. And I love those scenes, so I have it so high. And just the introduction of the clones is so cool, especially whenever they're on Geonosis after like half the Jedi die battling these droids. And then the clones come in with Yoda. It's such a cool moment. And it's not great CGI because all the clones are CGI. But I look past it because it's 2002. And I love these movies. And the ending's great. I love the fight with Count Dooku versus Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Yoda. Shows the power of Count Dooku. He's one of the best duelists in all of Star Wars, and he's an old man, so that's pretty cool. Plus, it's played by Christopher Lee, who's just a legendary actor.
Yep.
Rip.
And for how little he has to do in this movie, he carries. Like with his 8 lines, such a good acting performance.
Well, he was Qui-Gon's master, right?
Yes.
Yep. So I think that just kind of showed back, and it's like I really like that struggle between him and Obi-Wan as well too. And heck, I even loved all their dialogues they had together.
Yeah, whenever Obi-Wan is trapped in that weird floaty handcuff thing, him and Count Dooku's interaction, and it's, as a younger child, I didn't understand that part. But whenever you get older, like Count Dooku is trying to tell Obi-Wan, like, the Senate is not what you think it is. Like, there is a Dark Lord that is in charge. And Obi-Wan just assumes he's lying. But Count Dooku's telling the entire truth. And he's like, Obi-Wan, me and you both, we like Qui-Gon. We respect him a lot. I think he didn't tell you, you can tell that Qui-Gon has some things against Jedi Order. He purposely doesn't want to be on the council because he doesn't entirely agree with everything they do. And so Obi-Wan, it'd be so cool to see like a what if, if Obi-Wan actually listened to Dooku and they team up. That'd be an absolute powerhouse duo.
And he became a Sith apprentice.
Dude, they'd absolutely destroy Palpatine.
Now, but they have to have room for Asajj Ventress, who isn't even in the movies.
That's right. And also, that brings up a good point.
Ouch.
Attack of the Clones is one half of the reason that the animated show Clone Wars exists.
Yep.
And so that's also why I like Attack of the Clones a lot, is because it introduces some of the best parts of Star Wars, in my opinion, because I'm very high on the animated series, too. It's also peak Star Wars. So, yeah, Attack of the Clones is my number 5. Very high, I know. But
that is interesting.
I love that movie. I can rewatch it so much.
All right, Kindle. All right. I was ready. I thought you were doing it for real.
Oh, no, we don't have time for that because my number 5 is also going to be Attack of the Clones.
Let's go.
Are you serious?
I loved Attack of the Clones.
Absolute legend.
Again, I'm gonna keep this going here, but like you can almost see that like Dooku has already planned to betray Palpatine by saying that I don't want to have an empire that's going to destroy both sides of this. So you understand more of Dooku's background of things of, hey, the only reason I'm a part of the dark side is to kind of in some ways destroy the dark side or to stop it from conquering the whole entire galaxy with creating the empire.
He's a man of the universe.
Gotta love him. You have one of the I love Geonosis as well too. I love the bug people.
I like them a lot too. They're
That
very
was
unique.
that was the coolest language I thought in Star Wars, in my opinion. I loved Jango Fett. We finally actually get to see a great warrior of the people that is not wielding a lightsaber.
Yeah, 100% agree because he
That's-
goes toe to toe with Obi-Wan.
Yep, 100%. You get to understand why the Clone Wars and what the Clone Wars meant, what the clones even meant. Like, hey, we basically found the best specimen in the whole entire universe.
Yeah.
And cloned him. Except we construed their minds so they don't act exactly like him. And he's like, hey, I want an exact replica of myself just to have as a keepsake.
Keepsake.
Just in case.
Imagine if they made like, I think that's even a good story as well too. It's like, hey, we made 10 more of them.
Yeah.
And they're the Jenga Squad.
The Jenga Squad.
It's also peak Mace Windu in Attack of the Clones.
And he like wrecks Jango Fett.
Absolutely
man.
wrecks him.
Hate to see in some ways, but they had good hyping of him.
Yeah.
As well too already because you had the moment where the Jedi jumps up on the pedestal there and he's just like Western style
Yeah.
blows him hack.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pump blew him through the kitchen from the doorstep.
I
I'm trying to think whatever else. I did kind of like the love interest between Anakin and Padme. And again, we have the #1 hairstyle that has ever been seen in a Star Wars movie ever. You have prime Obi-Wan with a mullet.
no, that's not.
He had to cut his mullet for the Revenge of the Sith.
That's not what I thought you was gonna say.
And you have Anakin as well too with a weird little hair braid that goes down off his head. Stop me if I'm wrong. Everybody had the kid in their grade that had the weird little hair braid off his head, whether they glued it on there, whatever else.
Yeah.
And again, it's like everybody's talking to Hayden Christensen like he grew it out his whole. No, I just glued that thing on. And everybody's just like so shocked and disappointed. Like, hey, I grew mine out actually.
Yeah, I know. Gosh, you got Obi-Wan's mullet, we got Anakin's hair, then we got Mace Windu.
Love Mace Windu's hair, just personally.
If
I
Darth
really
Maul was
relate.
if Darth Maul was in this movie, best hair out of any Star Wars
That's
movie
right.
ever.
Just horns. I about lost my mind whenever you were making the clicking sounds with the one language. I just hit the mic again.
You're trying to make the noises
just
now
hit it.
too.
It's awkward, like looking this, like being right here. Because when you're making the clicking sounds in the Geonosian language, I thought of the Ugandan knuckles. I'm like, Ebola. We must save the queen, my brothers. Save the separatists, my brothers. Gosh, sorry, I was about to lose my mind. You do have some really interesting points. You two have it a lot higher than I do.
I kind of figured that would be the case with both of you. Honestly, I'm so happy we have it at the exact same position.
Yeah.
Glad I share my opinion with someone.
Gosh, you have Attack of the Clones high, and you have Empire Strikes Back at #4. Gosh, it feels good to be right, ladies and gentlemen.
You have your #2 is one of the latest movies that came
You know
out. I don't
what?
want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
I love The Last Jedi. I'll never apologize for it. But I expect you to apologize for yours. Okay, so I guess it's time for my #5, isn't it? Actually, just make sure. Open this up again. Ouch. Almost cut myself on that. Okay. Revenge of the Sith is my #5. Why do I have it lower than these two fine gentlemen? Good question. And that deserves a good answer. Good answer is the dialogue is still really weird and very cringy. And I love the music. The music slaps. The Battle of the Heroes is fantastic. It's emotional. This movie moves very fast. General Grievous gets nothing to do. And kind of dies in like a kind of a petty way. But this is also someone who watched a lot of the Clone Wars around the same time I actually had recently watched this movie, where Grievous gets so much more to do in the animated show. And actually, in all reality, most of my emotion attached to this movie is actually brought from the Clone Wars, because through the Clone Wars, I get so attached to Anakin and Obi-Wan, which makes me anticipate like what's happening in #3 more. Yeah. Especially season 7 of the Clone Wars, which is like literally as Revenge of the Sith is going on. So, and I'm not going to talk about it too much because you two already nailed a lot of things on the head. The CGI is phenomenal and holds up really well for its time.
So I just remember those little popcorn looking droids that
Yeah.
they shoot all over the ship and
Yep.
stuff
The
like
buzz
that.
droids.
Buzz droids, man.
Yeah.
It's so unique with like all the ideas of droids they put into this one because
Yeah.
there's
So
just so many
cool.
of them.
And they used super battle droids a little bit, not just in the second movie. And it started to go along with like their kind of gag characters.
Yeah.
Like the droid army really isn't that strong. There's just a lot of
A
them.
lot of them. Yeah.
But like it starts to play off that like, oh, they're kind of gag
Yeah.
like villain.
And they go all in
like
on that in
lackeys.
the animated show.
Yeah, and it's
which
funny,
helps.
and I enjoy that.
Yeah, I enjoy it too.
R2D2 still gets a lot to do.
Yep.
But like at the heart of the story, it's all about like Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Padme, and seeing Anakin's eventual like fall to the dark side is super intriguing, and all of his interactions with Chancellor Palpatine are just awesome. And even when he like catches him and he pulls his lightsaber on him and he's
Yeah.
like, "You're under arrest." Like he was doing the right thing,
Yeah.
even with all of his conflict. He still kept,
True.
his core values at heart until Emperor Palpatine is like, I can help you like save your wife because you're dreaming about her dying. And he's
Yeah.
like, let's see, millions of innocent people, my future wife or current wife,
Yeah.
my wife, millions of innocent lives. All right, what do you got?
Well, it's not really millions of lives. How many Jedi were there at the time? Maybe 1,000, 2,000.
A lot, something like that. Yeah, it's not a million, just a few thousand people. No big deal, just murdered on the street. No big deal at all. But no,
Well, and it's
he had
in
to
his mind as well
choose.
too. It's now a flawed order.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Like,
he's
I
starting
think that's
to
where
see,
you see the change where like when
right.
Mace Windu's like, no, we're just going to kill him on the
Yeah.
spot. And it's like, no, that's not the way we're supposed to do this. Like,
Yeah.
I'm supposed to look up to you and that you're the pinnacle of what a master is at this
Yeah.
point, and you're going to do that to somebody that's basically telling you he wants to surrender.
Yeah.
Like
See,
you're
right. I feel like Anakin would have been the perfect gray Jedi because since he was around Palpatine, who promised him that he could save his wife, which didn't end up working out anyways, he basically had to just go from one extreme to the other. Like, yeah, he had reasons for not liking the Jedi Council, but he still kept those values up to that point.
so like
And then all of a sudden he's like, yeah, forget all that. Like, I'm going to bow down to you and we're going to do this. If he would have been trained by Qui-Gon, they probably would have left and gone like to be like the gray Jedi Order.
Yeah.
And I think that he would have been perfect for that role. But because Palpatine's involved, who orchestrated an entire war, he helped orchestrate a war with this one army that he has control of against another army that he's secretly funding so that he can rise to political power so that he can destroy both armies and then make a new army. It's really complicated. So I love this movie because of a lot of the nostalgia that's attached to it. But like I say, nostalgia can't lift up your movies all the way sometimes. So because of that, I have to be honest and say the dialogue is still pretty bad. And the music is great, but a lot of things don't make sense. Characters are very underutilized. Dooku is wiped in the first 15 minutes of the movie. And I mean, I really think the first half of this movie is very jarring, but the second half is like top Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I kind of see where you say, like, when I think of Star Wars, I think of the prequels, because that's what we really had most of the exposure to.
Yeah.
So I understand that. But anyways, that's why it's my number 5. It's still my top 5. I really love it, but I have to acknowledge it's kind of got problems. So
Thank goodness for the animated Clone Wars.
yeah. Gosh, and the dialogue. You turned her against me. You've done that yourself. You will not take her from me. It's so strange.
I thought it was awesome, man. I just might be a strange individual, I think, in general, but like, again, like your whole entire plan was based upon your future wife or whatever, riding with you throughout this whole entire empire. Like you turned everything that you've ever built your whole entire life on, you turned your back on it, and now you're overwhelmed with anger. And that's what the dark side is. It just overwhelms you with emotion. And you could see that happen with him, or he's just so overwhelmed by emotion that it's like, only thing he can do right now is fight.
And he didn't
Yeah.
even stop to think like what Padme would think about
Yeah.
his actions. He's
Yeah.
just like, I gotta save her, and
He-
she's gonna like that I'm gonna save her because I know she's
he-
gonna die.
He kind of does it to himself.
Yeah,
And that's why I think
Well, that's why he says it.
Anakin's the real victim here, guys.
Or that's why Obi-Wan says it.
I
You've
think
done that yourself, Anakin, and now you're trying to poke him.
One of the best lines in Star Wars: The Clone Wars is season 7. Spoiler alert: Darth Maul, who's still alive by the way at this point, is talking to Ahsoka Tano, and he talks about how Anakin and Skywalker is the key to everything.
Yeah.
And she says like to bring balance to the Force, and he just goes to destroy. And like now, like those scenes are absolutely haunting, and that makes that movie a little better actually.
Yeah, it
So
100%
honestly, if
does.
it wasn't for that, I probably have Revenge of the Sith a spot or two lower. So I have a very big appreciation for it, but I have other Star Wars movies, obviously the 4 before it, where I'm like, that's really good. So, anyways, that's my number 5.
Nice. I'll go ahead and start us at 6 here. I'm gonna go 6 as The New Hope. That's my number 6 spot. Again, it's the first one that ever came out. What can I say really about this? I did like Ben Kenobi, like the old crazy guy over living somewhere, Ben Kenobi. And again, this movie's gonna be ranked a little bit higher just because you figure out who Obi-Wan is after a while. And even the Obi-Wan show as well too, when he changes his name to kind of hide his identity.
Right.
Plays more into this as well too. You have just a cool start to this series of, hey, there's a bunch of different planets, and all these planets have different things with it. We have this basically desert planet. You have a young protagonist that really wants to get out and see the world. That I think the new series basically just wants to steal from that. But I think it's just done flawlessly there at the beginning. He's just a kid, just wants to get out the world, introduce all these really crazy characters all together into one crazy universe, and start a franchise.
And start making money.
Monet.
um,
Always want to be a pilot. I don't
Yeah.
know, just very ambitious young person that ends up becoming like the key pinnacle of saving the whole entire universe.
yeah, because he has like no idea.
Yeah.
Like for the most part, that how important he is to this whole thing.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of interactions with him and Leia, and you know, meeting Han Solo and Chewbacca, and there's that whole dynamic, which is pretty interesting. So.
They don't kiss in The New Hope though. That's an
No, they don't.
Empire.
It's a.
But he does
No,
like
no,
her.
yeah, he does,
He's
yeah.
yeah. Wow, princess.
I'm here to
Han,
rescue you.
Han gets the pistol scene.
Yeah,
But you.
That's very cool.
and then there's the there's the Kraken squid monster that's in like the garbage disposal.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. There's some. Just imagine seeing this movie for the first time whenever you're in theaters. Just very first time, and you're like, "What is
What?
this?
Yeah.
What's going on?"
I just imagine probably like there's some church out there in the world. It's like, oh, this is because he's Satan. George Lucas is Satan. That's the only reason this movie was made. It's promoting paganism, and no, I just wanted to make my own universe.
Yeah.
I
Calm
like
down,
people
everybody.
with glowy sticks who hit each other. And there really isn't that much lightsaber like usage in the movie.
But I still think it has one of the most iconic things in it as well too. Just like, you strike me down in fear, I will live forever.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was super, super neat, where it's just like, it kind of all goes full circle when you know the real story behind all of it for the future.
Yeah.
I thought that was just amazing writing. Like, oh, I was his mentor at one time, and your father did die because that's not Anakin Skywalker anymore. That's
Yeah.
Darth Vader. And that kind of shows it within the Obi-Wan series, which I think that show was overhated in a lot of ways as well too. The Obi-Wan series that came out on Disney Plus, where it's just like, I'm not Anakin anymore, and you didn't kill Anakin. I did. Darth Vader did.
Yeah, that was a really good line. That is definitely true. I mean, I think for most people, I think a lot of people would probably rate that movie as the best Star Wars movie.
Any older
A New
person
Hope.
would, for sure. And
Yeah,
Possibly because
you,
of the
Kendall.
nostalgia aspect of it. Yeah.
There you go. Now you're looped in with all the with all the elderly people.
Yes, sir. Let's give them that retirement. Give it to me.
Yeah. All right.
Most people would probably have Empire and A New Hope back to back because
Probably.
anyone that's much older than us hates the prequels and they hate Hayden Christensen, which is
Yeah.
so sad.
It is sad.
Have you seen the video of him doing a promo and they introduce him and the crowd is like cheering for him and just yelling that we love you? And
Yeah.
he starts crying. Like he's
Yeah.
tearing up because he never got that in the early 2000s.
No,
Like, it
because
was
everyone
hate.
hated him. Yeah, but now, like, especially with the sequels that came out, people have like a newfound love.
Yeah. And
for
we
the
all grew up,
prequels.
so we now have a more of a voice, and that's the people that were cheering for him. Is
Yeah.
people our age.
Yeah, yeah. It's a very sweet thought.
We're
Very,
gonna make
very good sentiment.
They now have to make 3 more movies so we can hate those movies. And
That's right. And the sequels be like, oh, these are good. It's all right.
You know what? It's not that bad.
It's not that bad.
No, that bad. So, are we on your number 6, Zach?
All right. My number 6, Solo.
Yay!
It's similar energy as Rogue One. Now, granted, it's different than Rogue One because it uses characters that we know, whereas Rogue One is people we don't know other than Darth Vader. But it's rewatchable, which for me is important, especially for Star Wars, since they're not. It's not a Scorsese movie, you know. You're not there for writing and
It's not.
and critical thinking. But it's just a very enjoyable movie. Train scene's awesome. A lot longer than I remember it being whenever I watched it.
It is, but I love it. I think
But
great.
it's like it helps it. It's very tense the whole time. And the Mother of Dragons is in this movie, Kira.
Khaleesi.
And I like her role in this movie. It's probably her
Space
best.
Britain.
That's right. It's probably her best role other than Game of Thrones. It's just an enjoyable movie. I love Han and Chewbacca's chemistry. I do like the actor. I think a lot of people didn't go see this movie just because the media gaslighted this actor. Like, this isn't Han Solo. Like, he's an awful casting.
Yeah.
And it's just, I watched it and I'm like, I don't know. He acts a lot like Han Solo.
Yeah.
He
It's
might
like
not
a-
sound like him, but he kind of looks like him, you know. He's got the hair. But just, you know, the way the lines he uses, it's very Han Solo. He perfectly portrays I want to be a bounty hunter, but I have good intentions. I kind of like that
I
internal
want to be a
battle.
moral bounty hunter.
That's right.
I want to be Dog the bounty hunter.
Dog.
And I like the ending. I like all the like twists, like I got you, and actually
Actually, this is real.
What's
The
the
coaxium.
coaxium? Like, coaxium's here, but
He's like,
we got it over there. Oh, just kidding. This is the real stuff because we knew you'd do that.
Yeah.
Beckett, dadgummit.
it's super clever.
I like
and
it.
It's a heist movie. I would call it. I'd call it a heist movie. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
and I felt like Guardians of the Galaxy vibes from it. I don't know
Yeah.
if anybody else
Yeah.
did.
Just a crew coming together and stealing stuff.
That's right.
Yeah, I like
Wow.
Solo a lot. I think it's overhated for sure.
It looks exactly like the real thing. How did you do it? Well, it's because it is a real thing. And at the very end, it's empty. So that means the coaxium is right here, leaving with one of us. I was like, that's clever. That's
Yeah.
good.
And then Darth Maul cameo, but they haven't done anything with it because Solo didn't make that much money. So
I know. Isn't that sad? They actually had a trilogy planned for this. And because this movie didn't get great reception, they scrapped it.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's so much you could do with this.
a lot of potential.
And, you know, it's not that long of a movie. It's like 2 hours long.
Yeah.
So it's like, but man, oh gosh, I would have loved to have seen Darth Maul, more of that.
More
So
live
good.
action Darth Maul.
Yeah.
I loved all the set pieces they had in the film. So, and they had more Wookiees.
That's
and I
right.
like Wookiees. So,
Not the only flaw, but my biggest flaw is for sure like the color. You know, it's very dark, not tonally, but just the colors of the movie's dark.
yeah,
Other than the Kessel Run, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that,
it's
I
a
like
solid movie.
it. I like it a lot.
All right. So we're at my number 6.
Yep.
I'm not going to talk a whole lot about it, but Rogue One. So touching a little bit more on what these two gentlemen said earlier, This is a good, solid movie. I think after this point, because there's 5 more after this. After this point, then it starts to really kind of go down for me. But this is still in the precipice of what I would call like a great movie, because the visuals are fantastic. It makes the Death Star and the Empire actually worth fearing, because like for the most of the part, like the Death Star is more of just like a plot device, and of course it is in this movie, but it almost feels like the Death Star is its own thing in this movie. And seeing director Krennic, who's played by Ben Mendelsohn, so he's great in this movie because you actually get to see more of like a relationship between this director and this other person who was the main character's father, who used to be a part of the Empire and has now kind of gone away from that. He's like, we were this close to greatness. You know, that's such a meme now. But and seeing him construct these plans for this horrible thing, this Death Star that could just, I mean, when they first launched it, then they killed Saw Gerrera on whatever planet, can't remember now. And to see the way that planet blew up was just like, oh my gosh, like that actually is really scary. Because in the first, like, what was it, A New Hope?
Yeah, it was A New Hope where they blew up Earth.
Earth. they blew up Alderaan.
Alderaan, yeah.
And,
Alderaan.
And it just kind of, you know,
explodes, yeah.
Which is terrifying, probably. But like seeing it from the inside out was
On a
definitely
smaller
different.
scale,
Yeah.
yet bigger because you're on the planet.
Yeah. Scarif is a super cool place, and they even have a kind of a space battle type thing, which is really cool. And having them have to go down there and go through this tower to get the plans. And there's the droid played by Alan Tudyk. The droid's name is like K2SO. Super cool. And they have really great chemistry. Jyn Erso is a very interesting character. She has like a very, she's a very interesting backstory with having a father who kind of left her and then went with the Empire and then left again to go back. But all the while, she doesn't know he's like secretly trying to make a way for the good guys to win. There's a lot going on, but this feels more like a war movie than it does anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels like a Saving Private Ryan kind of movie.
Yeah. And
And-
I like that aspect
I do
of
too.
it.
Me
Like,
too.
Yeah.
it's Star Wars isn't just about like that's why I said like it's not about like a one show pony of one and protagonist is gonna win it all.
It's got one of the best endings because the whole fact of the matter is like, as you said, like in New Hope, like you have no idea what it took to get these plans. Like these people went to this place and had to accept that they were all going to die.
Yeah.
And they faced like nearly impossible odds and still won out the day. And
They did it for the rebels.
they did it. They did it for their land.
States' rights.
States against the Confederacy.
Alabama people just
Confederate
resubscribed.
Respect my authority. But so, and I'm so glad that the main two characters, Andor and Jyn, did not share a romantic scene. Thank the
goodness.
Lord, because you don't need that in every movie, and especially not this one, where like they were just content with just being there, and like they won. They were able to get these plans out, and they just accepted this is it. And just to see like basically like a nuke, except for like it's supersized, just overtake them, and then Darth Vader just wrecks these newbie rebels. Is such a, you know, the music is great, and it's the main qualm I have with this movie is that there's too many characters. There's a lot of characters, Jyn, Andor, K2SO, Bodhi, Chariot, something like that. There's a lot of characters. It's really hard to remember a lot of them, and a lot of them only have like very minor roles to play.
Yeah.
So I wish they would have probably toned that down a little bit and just stuck with probably like the main 3. But they have that one guy who's like, I am one with the Force, and the Force is with me.
Donnie Yen.
Yeah.
Kang.
Yeah.
Also
yeah.
blind.
Oh, yeah. Blind in both movies. Super good actor. And I'm glad that there wasn't like a bunch of lightsaber fight scenes.
Yeah.
So, because it felt more like a grounded movie. So, because of that, I rate this as number 6 and the last in my like top half category, basically.
Nice.
I would call this top half, even if it's at number 6.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
All right, so
Go
we're
ahead,
on to
hit number 7.
Oh, me?
Yeah, right
All
away.
right, I'll do it. All right, number 7 is The Force Awakens, which happens to be the 7th movie. I just now pieced that together. How about that? Heck yeah. I'm not doing this on purpose, I promise. The Force Awakens is a strange movie. When this first came out, I was all hyped. I was like, yeah, we got Star Wars again. Heck yeah. And Jefferson and I were so excited to go see it. I saw this movie in theaters 3 times. So understandably, like at the time, I was like, oh, this is one of the best Star Wars movies. Looking back, no, it's not. It literally, I think that Mark Hamill himself, who plays Luke Skywalker, actually said it really well, where he says like basically they copy and pasted Rey's story like from Luke's story.
Yeah.
Like
The safe thing to do.
yeah. And so and
Except they didn't give her parents.
Right. And even Luke's parents weren't even his actual parents. But other than that, like
Rest in peace,
other
Uncle
than
Ben.
that, like they had very similar parts, except for the fact that she's a girl. So that was like the new thing. It's like, oh well, it's different because she's on a desert planet. Check. Who doesn't have her real parents? Check. Who is a good pilot? Check. Who wants to get off the planet and adventure? Check. Who has a strange connection to a greater force? Check. Who is brought upon a situation with an older person, Han Solo, who kind of guides her through this new life? Check. So got all these things.
Droid from out of nowhere.
Droid from out of nowhere. Check. So we got all these things. Rey is fine as a character. She has her own personality. She has her own quirks. But I think
Names has 1 syllable in it.
there we go. Rey. But then like they have other characters like Kylo Ren, who is super intriguing because he's not like your typical Sith. Like he's not wearing like a dark mask all the time. He's not wearing like a dark hood. He is wearing a mask, but he takes it off. He takes it off in the middle of the movie, and you see like he's just kind of a kid, and I kind of like brought like a sense of like realism to it in a in a series where it's all about space,
Right? Yeah.
and lasers and laser swords and stuff. They try to set up Snoke. Poe is one of the first characters introduced in the movie as like a great pilot, but Finn is the really interesting character of this film because he is an actual First Order storm trooper who is escaping that life, and they kind of do him dirty the next 2 movies. Admittingly, in The Last Jedi, they kind of do him dirty, but he has a really interesting story because Rey is trying to like teach him to fight for the right thing, to be like, hey, you can't just run away from all your problems. We have to we have to faith this together. No.
Okay, Codebreaker.
And then Han Solo gets some to do. He's got really funny lines. Him and Chewbacca are great. And he like Han Solo shoots the bowcaster. He's like, I like this gun. And they get on the Millennium Falcon again. There's so much in this movie to love, but it's all really based on nostalgia. Yep. And it doesn't really hold up to heavy scrutiny. And so at the end of my concluding thoughts on this movie is it's kind of cookie cutter. And that's what kind of makes it just like, it's okay. Like it's good enough. Like if somebody asked me to watch it, I wouldn't say no. Be like, yeah, it's fine. There are things to love in this movie. Like Finn gets to use the lightsaber against a stormtrooper, and I thought they were setting him up for a big thing. They don't. Spoiler
Just
alert.
kidding.
JK. But
Picks up the purple lightsaber, shaves his head.
Turns out he's Mace Windu's
I'm
lost.
Finn Windu.
I am Mace Windu's great grandson.
Even though Jedi aren't supposed to have families.
That's right. But once Darth Sidious took over, then Mace Windu went wild, man.
That's right. On the streets of Coruscant.
War of the Windus.
Windu Civil War. But no, Finn is the most, I think, probably one of the most interesting characters in this movie, and Kylo is really nice, but Rey is kind of really strong to start off as the protagonist, and that really is like Luke, basically. He got lucky in a lot of situations, and he had to kind of learn to get into his greatness, whereas Rey is just like force.
Be stronger than
Yeah.
guy that has trained for several years.
Yes. Yeah.
And I know how to do the Jedi mind trick.
Yeah.
Which Luke didn't know how to do till Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
So, and
Mark
she literally
Hamill's
did
just
it on
sitting there
instinct.
screaming at the screen. It took me 3 movies. 3.
Basically. So, concluding thoughts. That's okay. And it's not that bad.
It's not that bad.
All right. Kendall, hit us with that number 7.
Phantom Menace.
Interesting.
Jar Jar Binks is overhated. I know a lot of people said he's the most annoying character in all of Star Wars. I don't really necessarily think so.
He's the best character in all of Star Wars.
Yeah, I know he's Shaggy level power. Ultra Instinct Jar Jar Binks. We've never seen it.
That's right.
He didn't need to pull it out.
He's the one really pulling the strings behind
Yeah.
everything.
Yes.
Darth Jar Jar.
Darth Maul is the coolest looking villain in all of Star Wars. I don't know how they thought about it at all. It's like, how about we just make it where his lightsaber shoots out on both ends of the stick?
So cool.
I wonder if that's cool or not. Well, I don't know, George. I think we should just keep him have with a regular lightsaber. Now let's try this out and see how it does. Let's paint him red and black and give him horns. I think that really opens it up to really. One thing I hate about the prequels, I feel like they didn't do a great job of showing like the alien races as much. I feel like a lot of ways they made it more humanized. But the first one was pretty well covered with aliens. Love the whole race scene where Anakin has to win this little race deal to get enough money to fix the ship.
Now this is pod racing.
Thought that was kind of an interesting little deal there. A lot of people hate that as well too, and shows kind of what his pilot skills and his engineering skills at least looked like there at the very beginning. Shows his home world. I feel like a lot of ways it was kind of to show like how Luke came about, except his mother was actually there. He's more
Mom.
his mom was all there. He seemed to be probably a little bit smarter just naturally than what Luke was as well too. And he was at a lot younger age as well too when he was taken off the planet and brought to the Jedi Order.
Dude, and he was already getting women, man. I mean, he was already like, hey, I know you're like 10 years older than me, but you're kind of cute. You look like he did the angel line. I'm like, dude, nobody even had to tell him. He just knew.
Dude, yeah, Anakin, the master of Riz.
Yeah. Basically just wore a shirt the whole entire movie that said Cougar Bait on it.
An 18-year-old cougar because he's 10
That's
years
so
old.
bad. That's so bad. Oh,
That's something we didn't even touch on. Attack of the Clones was his mom. Powerful
Yeah.
scene.
Yeah.
oh gosh.
Oh, for sure. Golly, why did we forget that?
I don't know.
Huh. But that was another reason why I kind of rated it
Yeah,
so high in a lot of ways.
because they introduced his mother in Phantom Menace. A good part about it is they show like they love each other a lot,
Yeah.
and it's it's a slow part of the movie, but it establishes like an important connection
Oh yeah.
that's paid off in Attack of the Clones.
And like the best part about that scene with his mom is the music.
Yeah.
Whenever his mom like dies,
Oh yeah,
and you can hear like the dark side music swelling, and all of a sudden he goes out and he's like he murders these
Yeah.
guys. And he goes up to Padme and he's like, I killed them all. I slaughtered them like animals. And she's just standing there with no reaction.
yeah.
And not just the men,
But the women and
children,
children
too.
too. I don't like sand.
I hate sand.
it's rough and it gets everywhere. Thank you, George Lucas.
just like the blood of the.
just like the blood of the sand people.
Good thing you guys can't go super sand.
Gosh, that's funny. Where are we at?
Oh, we're almost at 2 hours right now. So
Really? Oh, wow.
we're not doing too bad on time. But no, Phantom Menace was good. The whole idea of the Qui-Gon Jinn type piece. I wish I would have seen more of a "I will find you" and "I will."
I will find him.
One of the more important deaths in all of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Because if
Yeah.
he was alive, Anakin would probably be totally different.
Same way, it kind of showed like the. I did like that aspect. It's like Obi-Wan wasn't quite ready to be a master just yet,
Right.
but he had to kind of step up into the role to fulfill the dream of his master.
Yeah.
To see
Yeah.
that Anakin was already, he's going to be one of the best, and he's like
Around.
yeah, he needs a teacher to be one of the best
Around.
around. And he was able to step up, and it just shows much more emotion at the end of it. It's like I sacrificed my life to be able to teach you, and
And he disagrees with Qui-Gon at first. Like, we shouldn't bring on this kid. Like, he's not going to be able to be trained because he's too old.
yeah, and he has too
Yeah.
much attachment already to
Yeah.
somebody.
But then Qui-Gon dies, and he totally accepts responsibility. You know, like, I will train you and raise you because that's what Qui-Gon wanted.
Yeah.
That's how much I respect Qui-Gon.
He was the real goat. Qui-Gon, he was a real goat, man. What a guy.
What a
Liam
guy.
Neeson. Love Liam Neeson.
I love the idea where it just showed like the fight scene or whatever versus the what is Jar Jar Binks' people called?
Gungans.
The Gungans, yeah. The Gungans versus the droids and stuff. I thought that was kind of a neat scene at least.
They're
where
throwing all the balls that
throwing
the balls,
explode in
yeah.
electricity. Bzzz. Super cool. And they had the droidicas in the movie too that would
Yeah.
roll around
Yeah.
and had like the force shields. Those are pretty cool.
Very
Get them
cool.
droidicas.
Yeah, and the Jedi used like force speed, which is never used again, like
Yeah.
ever. But
Yeah.
super cool. So, all right, so that's your number 7.
It's my number 7.
All right, Zach, hit it.
My number 7. This movie's a lot higher on both your guys' lists. Return of the Jedi. Now, I have to
Okay.
say, looking at my list, I'm not going to say the ratings, but my 4th movie, all the way to what's going to be after Return of the Jedi, they're all within 0.5 of each other on a 1 to 10 scale.
Yeah.
So they're all good, in my opinion. I just put Return of the Jedi towards the bottom because I prefer the newer ones, the prequels, just because I think they're more rewatchable. But yeah, Return of the Jedi, awesome movie. Peak Luke, powerful, patient. He's learned a lot. Green lightsaber, black wardrobe is awesome. I like the whole movie, honestly. I don't have many problems with it. I just like other movies more. I really like the intro with Jabba and the fight, even though Boba dies like very easily. It's still like a cool scene. And yeah, the ending is awesome. Luke beating his father in rage is perfect. Yeah, I agree. Probably the best line in all the Star Wars. I'm a Jedi like my father before me.
It's a great line.
And
It's
it's
such a good line.
very touching as with, the prequels having,
It's made
added
better
more
with
impact.
the prequels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think every time I think of that movie though, I just think of Jefferson. So man, that was my favorite movie because of Princess Leia.
Oh, Jefferson. Oh, brother.
Yeah,
Yeah, now
that's-
like back in the day, that was everybody's
Oh,
teen
gosh.
crush.
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, that's my number 7.
R.I.P.
All right. Well, good deal. So we'll go ahead and get into to number 8. So I'm going to go ahead and start this one off and do Attack of the Clones, which is much lower than you two. The dialogue is similar to Revenge of the Sith, but worse.
Way worse.
The romance is similar to Revenge of the Sith, but way worse. And
But the mullet.
the mullet. The Palpatine's like overcomplicated plan starts to really like rear its ugly head, and it kind of bothers me. And especially like his plan to try to assassinate Padme is one like I've never seen before, where he asks Count Dooku to go kill Padme, but he doesn't want to do it, so he sends Jango Fett, who sends a changeling, who sends a robot, who sends bugs to go kill Padme. Now keep in mind, like she's like laying in like a bed, like in her wherever she lives, like her dorm. and she has like the blinds like way open. But she's like a huge political figure. She's basically like asking to be assassinated.
And there's already been an attempt. They blew
Yeah.
up her ship.
And then the bugs come out, and then Anakin and Obi-Wan. Anakin's like way older and way taller than Padme now. They're like kill the bugs, and Obi-Wan jumps out the window to grab onto the bug. The guy who doesn't like flying jumps out the window to grab onto this flying droid, which is all right. The changeling stuff, they don't really do anything with it because I don't know why. It's not really a reason. They could have made it to where like, oh, the changeling could like look like a Jedi, or it could look like a civilian. You could hurt someone innocent, but they don't do that. So is that Count Dooku really does carry this movie?
Yeah.
I will agree with you that him and probably Anakin like on his own without Padme is probably the best things about this movie. And him learning from Watto that his mom was sold back into slavery for the Tusken Raiders, who are very like brutal people. So that was extremely emotional. The fight scenes were cool. The Geonosis battle is really cool. That's like, for me, that's the highlight because the lightsaber battle is kind of weird. For those of you watching the video, I'm hopefully not to try to embarrass myself here. But basically, when Anakin and Count Dooku are fighting,
Yeah, I know where you're
for
going.
like a straight minute or two, you don't even see the lightsabers hit each other. It does quick cuts between seeing Anakin's face and Dooku's face while the lightsaber is just going wow, 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 like swinging around they're just swinging back and forth. You don't hear anything. And it's like dark colors. But then Anakin gets like the two lightsabers and then he actually starts using them. That's pretty cool. That's like one of the few times we ever see dual wielding in any of the movies. Yoda, the choreography was cool, but the thing that makes it weird for me is that Yoda's supposed to be like this old, like wise sage, but like, and they kind of make him like John Wick, where he's basically like
Extremely fast.
like he's super fast and he just like wipes people.
Yeah.
So and I was gonna say he was gonna beat Count Dooku until, obviously he had to drop the large pillar on Anakin and Obi-Wan. But you really got to see how powerful the Dooku actually was.
Yeah.
Like he took down both Obi-Wan and Anakin. Like, of course, they were supposed to do it together, but they went separate. So it's nice to see that payoff in the third movie. But this movie is overpacked with really weird dialogue, like when Anakin's talking to Obi-Wan and he's like, I just want to dream about Padme. And he doesn't even say anything. He's just like, okay.
Yeah.
He's like, that. I don't think that's okay, but whatever.
He's just, I was a young Jedi back in the day too, my friend.
Oh,
I had my love interest, and she gets killed later on throughout the.
that's true. He did have Satine. That's real tragedy right there.
That is.
That's real Clone Wars tragedy. But anyways, that's why that is my number 8. Basically, there are a lot of good things that you guys touched on, but I do think that it's dragged down by a really weird plot, really bad dialogue. Music's still great, good CGI, but some characters are put in very strange positions. So that's my number 8.
I will just say though, I thought Emperor Palpatine's plan was awesome. I'll just say that this whole entire deal behind it, because again, the CIS, the Separatists, he could never control them because it was all ran by really, really wealthy credit billionaires, whatever. I don't know what they call currency in their time at least. But he would never be able to control them because they would be wanting one thing, and that was free enterprise or whatever makes them money within the galaxy.
That's true.
He can't beat money, but he's able to do the Roman approach and able to be just, hey, we need to go ahead and call democracy off when you call republic off for a period of time, because we really need to have the budget and the wartime efforts to be able to end this war. And we're on the verge of the war right now. So that's his excuse is, hey, we're going to end the war. We can't vote on anything anymore. I will become the Supreme Chancellor for a very short period of time to be able to do this. So he does that, has all the authority to win the war. And then I already have all the army that's been pre-built, and I already have the people that I can't control already getting ready to lose this. And I've convinced them that, hey, we need to stop producing so many droids because this is the whole idea. And then he double crosses all the rich people that run the Separatcy.
Yeah.
And then he double crosses all the Jedi, and him and Anakin ride off into the sunset
That's
after
right.
all the bionic stuff's added.
But I think it's weird that like when Obi-Wan goes to Kamino to learn more about the clone army, he learns that it's connected to Sifo-Dyas. He has his own stuff, which is never mentioned again, by the way.
Yeah.
But he does learn that the clones are based off of Jango Fett. Jango Fett was hired by Count Dooku. And he knows this, but yet he makes no connection that Count Dooku and the clones are connected at all.
Yeah.
Which blows my mind.
He
So-
doesn't tell Mace Windu or Yoda, and they're like, "Yeah, we need this army. Let's go ahead and do it."
So I think
The money, the check's already
The
been
money,
cashed, guys.
yeah.
We can't. We
The
can't
dice
start
already
free.
been cast.
free army. Let's go.
the the
Well, how much does this thing cost?
the plan that Pepper frick shoot gosh I'm gonna lose it.
We've been on this podcast for too long, ladies and gentlemen. You see what we do for you guys.
Emperor Palpatine, his plan is interesting, but I think like it's only held really together by plot. Otherwise, there's
Yeah.
a lot of things that could tear it down. But anyways,
Okay.
What's your number 8?
My number 8 will be Solo.
Okay.
Again, I think you talked about all the really cringy pieces of it, but like I thought it was just pretty cringy with just his love interest backstabbing in some ways. I did think Emilia Clarke did really well in that role though at the same time, so I had maybe mutual feelings what I'd feel on it. The droid that had rights and the love interest with Donald Glover.
Yeah.
Train wreck of a thought.
It is weird.
It almost felt like it was trying to do some feminist type deal with it, but
as a droid.
as a droid, so I don't think it went anywhere at all, and I really did think that was pretty weird. I really wanted to see Han Solo be a part of the Red Solo Cup family. That's how he got his name.
Red Solo Cup.
We were replaced many years ago after we space colonized. Again, the tone a little bit darker. Usually Star Wars, you always get to know for like its really colorful nature.
Yeah.
I did love the poker scene though. Thought that was really
Sabak,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's fun.
That
Got old
little
James
cheater.
Yeah. Cheater.
James Bond vibe to it there, where he's just like, I've got a straight, I've got a flush, gotcha.
Gotcha. He's like cheating the whole time.
Yeah.
He's like, full sabak. Han, where's my VCX? And he's like, I don't have it.
It's in the shop right now.
Super funny.
The interest between Han Solo and Mando is awesome. I thought that was a highlight of the movie, in my opinion. Between Han Solo and Donald Glover.
Oh, yeah. I heard something completely different. I was like, wait, what? Because at first I thought you said Mando, and I was like, that's the Mandalorian. I would have loved to have seen him in the movie.
Takes a whole new way to the space Wild West, though,
There you go.
with the Mandalorian. I'm not going to say too much more on it. Again, it's still my lower category as well, too, though, just because of, I feel like it didn't do a lot great at the same time as well, too. I feel like it tried to be a little bit like Rogue in some ways to make it kind of like a heist movie.
Mhm.
And it tried to be a little bit like Guardians of the Galaxy, but did it in a little bit of a worse way.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Zach, hit us with your number 8.
My number 8, The Force Awakens.
Okay.
I was higher on this movie in theaters. It's probably the most hype I've been before a movie because, a new Star Wars movie is coming out. And I'll never forget, like, the butterflies in my stomach whenever that music hit and the word crawl came out, the intro. I was so hyped for that movie. And I left feeling like this is a great movie. This is a good Star Wars movie. And I don't mind that it's cookie cutter from A New Hope because I like it way better than A New Hope. It's entertaining to me. It's not near as boring as A New Hope.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get to that at some point. It's the best of Rey because I like how she's a scavenger. She's kind of not childish, but she's, how do I word this? Like she's
Immature.
not immature. She's like really, like she loves BB-8 and she's really entertained with what she finds. It's innocent. She's very innocent in The Force Awakens. And I really like Han and Chewbacca. And I love Finn. Finn is great in this movie.
Yeah.
Also peak Finn. And Kylo is horrifying at first. You know, he freezes that blaster bullet, and that's awesome.
That's so cool.
But where this movie falls off is just Kylo. First of all, Finn puts up a fight against Kylo, which there's just no argument for that, in my opinion, because he doesn't know about the Force yet, and he has absolutely zero lightsaber training,
Sword training.
any sword training,
Yeah.
and he puts up a decent fight, and then Kylo slits his back open, which was awesome.
Yeah.
And then it gets to Rey, and Rey just wallops Kylo, and it blows my mind. Like you can argue, you know, she's so strong in the Force, but that doesn't, you know, account for lightsaber training that Kylo has had from Luke Skywalker for years. And that really brings it down a lot for me because it totally takes me out of that fight.
I agree.
And I don't know. I don't like the choreography because it's not there. It's not choreographed.
It's more just people just hitting each other.
Yeah.
It feels more like.
It feels like the original movies, but the original movies did it better.
Right. It feels more like some teenagers found like some plastic lightsabers. And I just have a problem with that because I know the prequels are honestly, I think their fight scenes are a little over choreographed, but it's believable because these are like monks.
Warriors.
Like these are warrior monks
Yeah.
who have like been training in specific styles, and there's like 9 different styles.
Yeah, they have their
of
own
fighting.
styles. Yeah.
So there's that. But this one, it just feels like they're kind of just smacking each other. And I agree. It feels like Kylo's inherent advantage isn't even an advantage.
Yeah, and it makes no sense.
So.
And Kylo, I also hate Kylo's fighting style. Like he leans forward like way too much. Like he's for you guys watching on YouTube. He just I don't know it. I didn't notice it whenever I first watched these in theaters, but man, rewatching, I'm like, why does he bend over so much whenever he's fighting? And yeah, it takes me out of the movie.
Trying to
Otherwise,
have a boxing style of Force stance so you can duck. Don't go for my legs, please, God.
I mean, he probably bends forward because his back hurts from carrying this franchise too much.
But Force Awakens, I really like the first half of this movie. I like whenever Rey touches Luke's lightsaber and she like freaks out. She has a vision, and so you're thinking, okay, well, who's Rey? And that builds up to the fact that her parents are nobody, and you're like, well, why is she so strong in the Force? And then they ruin that in Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah,
but the colors are great. It is cookie cutter, but again, I don't mind it because I don't like A New Hope that much. But yeah, I can't stand that Rey just wallops Kylo Ren and Finn puts up a fight with no training. I can't stand that.
Yeah.
It bugs me a lot.
I agree completely.
So it's number 8.
There we go. All right, jumping into number 9, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about this because I have one main qualm with this particular movie. Number 9 is A New Hope. This movie is boring. It just is. I'm sorry. I understand it's the original. When it first came out, it was blah, blah, blah. Then why do I feel differently about this than Empire Strikes Back? Both of them came out a long time ago. Both of them probably have great CGI for the day, but don't hold up particularly well. But it's just it's different because there's so many scenes of just walking and no talking,
Yeah.
and the dialogue is really weird. And even
Yeah.
like Mark Hamill has like made fun of George Lucas multiple times, like on like TV on interviews, saying how like they had to like basically almost tie him up and force him to say his own lines because they were so bad.
Yeah.
And part of that really takes me out of the movie. The remastered version makes it even worse by adding scenes that are unnecessary. So honestly, like I know it's a great, I know it's like it's a new, fresh idea, original trilogy, starting off this great franchise, but it's hard for me to rewatch this movie, and I base a lot of how highly I rate something based on rewatchability.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's my number 9. I'm just gonna cut it there. I think it's boring. There's nothing really else to say about it. So, what's your number 9, Kendall?
I have Force Awakens as my number 9. And now these last 3 movies, I'm gonna kind of figure out. It's gonna be a little bit harder to pick the good out of it. I thought Poe was good.
Yeah.
I like
agree.
Poe. That was kind of a cool concept of it. Thought his name was pretty goofy though, just because he's the same name as the Kung Fu Panda. Not Star Wars' fault. It already happened.
Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah, I thought Rey was way too overpowered. I thought it was one of those deals where it's like
Mary
there's
Sue.
the feminism complex behind it. It's like, well, a girl can do it just like how Luke did it, but she has to do it a tad bit better because
Yeah.
we got a chip on our shoulder to have to talk about. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
I feel like that's taking away of a character that you just have to basically copy off
Yeah.
another character to make that your own deal.
Yeah.
Like I felt the very same kind of concept about Wakanda Forever and Marvel when they're like, hey, we're basically just going to have this person become the next Tony Stark.
Yeah.
But have no personality at all.
Just without the whole personality.
Yeah. Finn, awful. You just make him breathe heavy the whole entire
That is
movie.
true.
Right,
I remember in all the trailers when that movie came out, like every time he popped up on screen, it was just
Yeah.
just terrible writing on that end of things
Yeah,
there.
yep.
Like awful writing just for a character there. And it's like, you just feel bad too because it was like, we got to have this whole entire movie or the whole last 3 is like, well, we got to have enough diversity in it, but
Yeah.
we have to limit it to whatever standpoint it is, or we have to make sure to spread it out to all the diversity aspects of it. And
Yeah.
I just feel like in some ways you didn't need to put an extra character there in a lot of ways, or you should have made him Poe of some sort if you wanted the diversity there, I guess.
I feel like honestly they should have gotten rid of Poe because Finn is the embodiment of like wasted potential.
Yeah.
Because he starts out like with the like no one's ever done like a story of like, oh, he's a first order stormtrooper. Like he's in the middle of the fight.
Yep.
And then he's like, oh, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And then for like parts in the movie, they give him good moments. And then in The Last Jedi, they kind of give him the same kind of theme, the same kind of thing to do. Like you got to learn to fight for the right thing. And he has more stuff to do in The Last Jedi. And then The Rise of Skywalker, he's just wasted.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think this whole entire franchise, like you wasted my time learning Finn's character.
Yeah.
Like it never went anywhere, so you just wasted my time trying to get to his character. Don't like Kylo Ren either.
Really?
Interesting.
Yeah, like the idea was that, hey, you know what really worked is when they introduced cool lightsabers in the prequels. Yeah. Let's do that again. Let's give him a guard on the end of his lightsaber.
Yeah.
Stupidest concept you think I could have ever done. It's like, oh, looks like I'm going to bend my wrist in a certain way, like all the other Jedis do. Like
Yeah.
when I'm going to defend something here, and it's going to go forward and chop my thumb off. Almost pulled my headset out of here. I'm so flustered, ladies and gentlemen. So it's like, okay.
Tired of The Force Awakens. Bang, bang, bang.
And then like what you said as well too, it's like, oh, Finn's going toe to toe with
Yeah.
the
A Sith apprentice.
a Sith
Yeah.
apprentice.
The main bad guy.
So
Ridiculous.
whatever credibility he had at that point was out the window. So, and I got to be like Darth Vader and have this cool mask, and we're just going to have this cool mask and make it absolutely worthless in the next 2 movies going forward because, I didn't need a mask at all to help me breathe or anything like that. I was just doing it because it made me look edgy.
And Snoke like confronts him. Kylo, you got a 0 out of 10 on Yelp.
Take that ridiculous thing off your face.
You got beaten by a stormtrooper and a girl who's never even held a lightsaber.
Not even a stormtrooper, because the clones are all gone now.
Yeah. He's just a normal guy that was raised in the Empire. Or
Yeah.
The First Order.
Yeah.
I what can I say good? I thought that was a cool scene when they're fighting. I thought that was a cool background in the snow.
Yeah,
they were
super.
fighting
Yeah.
in, and
Yeah.
the burnt, like the trees are like burnt to a crisp kind of already, and
Yeah.
they're like chopping down trees while they're fighting and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rey figures out mind tricks when she doesn't even understand what
Yeah.
the Force is.
Hate that.
Is a expert level duelist with a lightsaber after this guy's trained since he's a little kid with Luke, and then so he understands both the light side and the dark side of lightsaber dueling as well too. But no, the only real credibility she has a stick that she beats people with on occasions, and that's why she's an amazing duelist.
Yeah. It's interesting because I was in the first half of the movie all in on Rey, great protagonist. Second half, I'm out.
Yeah.
It's just
Now-
she's powerful just because.
And I'd say I'd rate this so high just because I was the same as probably everybody in this room here. That's like, it's been so long since they made another Star Wars movie
Yeah.
Yeah.
that I'm going to do anything to watch it. I watched it probably 3 times as well too in theaters.
Yeah.
So I watched it with you, another group of friends,
Yes.
and another as well too. And it's like, oh, this isn't bad. This isn't bad. It's Star Wars again. We finally get our own little, like, this is meant to be ours in some way.
Yeah.
And Disney just blew it.
Butchered it.
You blew it.
You blew it.
You had all the money in the world.
You were the chosen one.
Should have sold it to China.
Wow.
We basically did. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, I will say that Kylo Ren also did just get shot in the spleen by a bowcaster
Oh, but still.
that he took straight on. There is that. So, but I'm not disagreeing because I agree with most of the points that you made. But also, I think he was less focused on killing Rey and more focused on getting her to come over to his side, like, because he says as they clash and they have enough time in their clash, kind of like Dragon Ball Z, to like talk while they're fist fighting. So they're in the middle of a clash and he's like, you need a teacher and I can teach you.
He's an apprentice.
Yeah. And then she like is in the sword clash and he's not saying anything. And she's like, the force. Oh yeah. And then she just uses it somehow, even though he could have easily just like force push her like
frozen her.
2 feet more back and she would have fallen down a cliff and died. And I'm like, you could have done that.
Yeah.
But oh well.
I did think it was cool though of the killing of Han Solo.
Yeah.
Like it was a
Did
good
like
way.
that.
Like, hey, you're my son. I believe that you could still do good. And it's like, hey, I have to cut my attachment out of you because you're the only good thing I remember in my life.
Wasn't a good emotional part of the movie.
All right. So what's your number 9, Zach?
My number 9 is A Phantom Menace.
All right.
And it's just because I think it's worse than Attack of the Clones because it's less rewatchable. It's slow through most of the movie. Obviously, phenomenal fight at the end with Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and Darth Maul. Duel of the Fates, most people's favorite piece of music from Star Wars. It's epic. It's awesome. Whenever Darth Maul shoots out both sides on his lightsaber and Duel of the Fates starts playing, pretty epic. I do like the pod racing. It's kind of cheesy because Anakin's he's a kid, so child actors, But I do like it's. Does a good job showing how talented he is as a pilot because he's 10 years old and yet he's on a super fast pod racing unit. I don't know what you'd call
Still
it. It's a
better
ship, I
writing than
guess.
Finn, I'd say though.
Yeah, I
opinion.
mean honestly, because it sets up well for the next 2 movies.
Yeah.
They clearly had a plan where the sequels do not.
Yeah.
Yeah, Phantom Menace, Darth Maul's awesome. Thank goodness we got the Clone Wars, the show, because that adds on to his
Oh, yeah.
character. Yeah, not a lot more I could say. It's a good movie. Jar Jar's overhated. It's still Star Wars to me, It does a
Yeah.
good job of encapsulating the world.
I'll piggyback off of all your points because my number 10 is Phantom Menace. So perfect segue. I agree. It's also really cringy.
Yes.
The pod racing scene is actually pretty exciting.
Yeah.
It's actually one of the best parts of the movie. And I remember going to like Incredible Pizza and they had like the Star Wars game thing you can play. And
Yeah.
one of them was pod racing. I'm like, now this is pod racing. Super fun. And I forgot what the guy's name, the other guy in the race that he was supposed to beat. Sebulba, that's it. And his funny language. Jar Jar is, he's overhated. He's cringy, but he's actually like fairly integral to the plot.
Yeah.
What little plot there actually is. There's not like a main character in the movie though, and that's really weird.
It is weird
because like Anakin's not really the main character. Qui-Gon's also kind of
he's definitely like that's who I would say is the main character.
And then Obi-Wan's like that weird side character.
Yeah.
Like I actually don't particularly like Obi-Wan in the movie at all.
He doesn't do much.
Yeah, the only good
at
scene,
the end.
right? I'd say the only good scene he has is when he fights Darth Maul, and then when he tells Anakin he's gonna train him.
Yep.
Darth Maul is awesome. The music still slaps, and I think part of the reason is like there's so many scenes without dialogue where they're just walking places that they kind of have to fill in with like this intense music to kind of keep the audience engaged. But the Phantom Menace was actually my earliest exposure to Star Wars. The first Star Wars movie I think I ever watched.
Yeah, I think mine too. I'd say just because it was kind of one of the worst of the three of the prequels and stuff like that. So I'm pretty sure like Fox or whoever else had access, they could play it whenever they wanted to.
Yeah.
So they just threw it on the TV just because they could.
Yeah. And it was just like, as a kid, it's easily digestible because since there's no plot, you can just mindlessly watch it.
Oh, red guy with lightsabers.
Yeah, the red guy with 2 lightsabers versus 2 guy with different colored lightsaber. I like good music.
Yep.
I'd say the main characters, to answer your question on that, I think there was an obvious main character, that's Watto.
Annie.
What are you talking about? He's space Italian.
We don't take those credits. You cheated.
And he's got his like facial hair. But it's like poorly shaved and stuff like that. So
he's got like that big like Squidward nose.
Yeah.
Jedi mind tricks didn't work on him because he was too busy handling the bag, man. He's like
too busy getting the bag. Gosh, Watto, main character.
I've got everything you need to fix your ship, but give me the Bitcoin. That's what I want.
The Bitcoin. That's funny. So yeah, that's my number 10. There's not a whole lot to say on it. I think that Qui-Gon is like probably the best thing about this movie. Qui-Gon, Liam Neeson does like as much as he can with the bad plot and bad dialogue.
Yeah.
And he actually pretty much carries this movie on his back.
Especially as I'm older, I notice how much he carries.
Yeah. And his legacy as Qui-Gon is like the most beloved character, or like one of the most beloved characters throughout. And it drives the plot forward for Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Count Dooku. Yeah. So anyways, that's my number 10. So what's your number 10, Kendall?
My number 10 is going to be The Last Jedi. All the points you guys made that you liked, hated it. God, I hated it.
And this goes to show how divisive it is.
Yeah. You have Mark Hamill, you have Luke that's, I'm a lost wanderer, just like Obi-Wan. Yeah. Oh man, I'm Disney and I thought of something unique and original there. Wrong.
Wrong.
You had he freaks out because one of his mentors didn't turn out to be great. Okay, not like you had to watch a whole entire world collapse that Obi-Wan had to watch, so stakes are a lot lower on that end of things. Thanks for that.
That's true. That's
you hype up a villain for a whole entire movie that he's going to be like Emperor Palpatine on crack. And he can't see through. Oh, somebody's turning the lightsaber to stab me. I can't even have a cool lightsaber scene where they could team up on me and beat me. No, they have to pull some ass pull. of a turn the lightsaber and turn it on me. Okay, that's great. Great job. And then I have to fight these little temple guards or whatever. Oh, I thought Rey was the greatest Jedi that ever lived. Watched her beat Kylo Ren in the first movie like it's nothing.
Oh my god.
And it even shows how awful of a character Kylo Ren is too. It's like you can't even be a good villain. You can't even win the right way. Like, oh, you're supposed to be just as strong as how Darth Vader was. Wrong. You have to pull some ass pull of a deal to beat your mentor. Congrats to you.
Just wrong. Oh my gosh.
And then at the end of it, they have to kill Luke in the stupidest way possible. Oh, I just had my force projected too strong that made me just pass away. Like, you could have actually sent him there. Like, you could have, like, oh, somehow he did a forced teleportation and teleported there so he could actually fight him. But no, he's just fighting air the whole entire time, and I die because I force projected myself in that perspective. Only thing that was good was that he was able to, like, brush around and cut stuff and, like, the ground turned red or whatever because that was the color of the sand after it was pushed up. But gosh, just wasted a character. Wasted Luke. Luke's meant to be the greatest Jedi of all time, but it becomes a crazy hermit just because one person went crazy. Just because my nephew started chopping people's limbs off.
So now you have people like on the complete opposite ends of the spectrum. That's pretty interesting.
God, I just Kylo Ren the whole time too. Like, Rey, I have to do it with you. I love you.
I love you, Rey.
Such a weird concept of it.
I do think,
and he has to do all this with a weird lightsaber.
yeah.
I will say, like, I thought it was super cool that they had like the Force connection, but it was kind of weird because he's like, I just want to touch your hand,
Yeah.
just the fingertips.
Yeah. I
And,
think I would have liked Luke versus Kylo more, especially if Kylo didn't suck in Force Awakens, and that could have been epic, you know.
Yeah.
Luke versus Kylo.
I disagree because I believe that Luke, like what the Jedi are supposed to embody is like in Return of the Jedi is how to win a conflict without violence, even if that means sacrificing your life, which is what he was doing to Palpatine. Because after he beat Darth Vader out of pure violence and rage, he realized he should not have done that, and that he was
Right.
going down the wrong path. And he threw his little lightsaber away, and he's like, "You can kill me, like, but I am a Jedi, and you will never change that."
Yeah.
And I like that.
point.
I don't disagree with that point. I think it just would have been more. It would have been less divisive if Luke and Kylo actually fought, and Luke
Oh,
still
sure,
lets Kylo win. He's
Yeah.
just distracting so the rebels, the resistance,
Yeah.
can get out safely. It
I-
accomplishes the same task. Just it'll probably satisfy more people.
Probably because I think that would be kind of a rehash of A New Hope.
Yeah, and it is.
So-
But hey, that's the whole
But
theme of the
That's
sequel.
the whole entire theme of the
So why-
sequel.
why
Like,
not
it's
dive
exactly
in?
a copy and paste of the whole deal.
But again, I do.
Except Rey somehow is miraculously related to Emperor Palpatine.
Oh, we'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
But
And I'm taking probably my reason why I rate the whole entire sequel a lot lower is because that was the last caveat at the end of it. Honestly, I didn't even know that. I thought that was the whole plan all along, was that she was going to be related to somebody big within the franchise because
I
that's
see.
how it always is.
because it was Spielberg who directed Force Awakens, right?
Yeah.
And then it goes to Ryan Johnson, and then it goes back to Spielberg. And Ryan Johnson's movie got a lot of hate, and so they go back to Spielberg. And Spielberg, the entire existence of Rise of Skywalker is just to correct what people hated about Last Jedi, but it didn't correct it because it's awful. And that brings down Last Jedi for a lot of people. I don't know. There's definitely some fair points against Last Jedi for sure.
But I don't care. 'Cause I freaking love it.
I do like it. I do like Last Jedi.
And then I just hate the sequel cast. Every last one of them.
Not just the men, but the women and the, children too.
Yeah, those darn kids on that casino planet. They
Yeah.
were awful.
Yeah, Casino Planet is weird in my mind too.
It is weird. That's for sure. Everyone should think that's weird. That
Yeah.
that had no place in the movie.
The like
The whole
Yeah.
casino scene.
right. So that's your number 10, huh?
Yep.
All right.
And I think we all have the same number 11 is what it sounds like
I
too.
think so. But Zach, what's your number 10?
Maybe.
My number 10, A New Hope.
Yeah.
Same point as you for the worst part about it. Super boring,
It is boring.
especially with what Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi do. It's Luke Skywalker is cringy in A New Hope. Like he talks like a whiny baby, even though he's like
does.
17-year-old. Like,
Yeah.
oh, but father, I don't want to work on the farm. Like, that's what he talks like. And it's so slow at the beginning. And I don't have the nostalgia factor as a boomer, seeing this in theater for the first time.
Right.
In which the first scene is cool. The practical effects of the ship, the Star Destroyer chasing Leia's ship, that's awesome. That still holds up today.
Yeah.
And I imagine seeing that in the theaters, you're like, whoa, how did they do this?
And you're just like behind the scenes, they just have like little like toys.
Yeah, little toys, and there's a
Little
string.
Whoa.
But after
the wind's
that,
blowing.
after that
Turn that
scene-
AC off.
after that scene, whenever R2D2 and C3PO land on Tatooine, it's such a drag for me. So boring. And Luke isn't, doesn't have good lines in the movie, so that's not entirely Mark Hamill's fault, because obviously Mark Hamill proves to do a lot better in Empire and Return of the Jedi. And Ben Kenobi's easily the best part of the first half, being just, I like how
I like a
Luke's
space drop top.
Yeah.
A space drop top, baby.
And I like
He's
how
rolling in
he's got a convertible, baby.
he's got a space Corvette.
And I like
These
how
are not the droids you're looking for.
I like how Luke's uncle says, he's just a wild space wizard. You shouldn't listen to him. But then Luke gets to him and he's like super calm and just a normal, wise guy. So like his uncle's just trying to keep him away from learning the Force. And yeah, awesome whenever he uses the Jedi mind trick. It's the classic. I do like that. And for me, Harrison Ford kind of carries this movie in the like middle section. He's clearly the best actor.
Yep.
I do like Leia too. I think the sequels try to have Rey be the best ever, and they try to be more diverse, but they've already done so well with Princess Leia as a main character, and Padme gets a lot of screen time, and she does very well in Revenge of the Sith, other than some corny love lines. But still, like they've had great lead female characters before, and they make Rey overpowered, and it makes me mad.
Yeah.
But yeah, New Hope, just boring for me. I'd rather watch every other movie,
almost every other one,
except for one.
Now, there is honestly the only reason why this is not at the bottom is because it has enough of a decent plot.
Yes.
And Ben Kenobi and Han Solo really carry this movie.
Yeah.
And Princess Leia is actually a pretty good character as well. But Luke as the protagonist is actually like the least likable person in the whole movie.
Yeah.
Well, that's why he was never like really in. Mark Hamill was never an actor in anything else.
Right. Yeah.
Other than this. And I think that's like they quoted like George Lucas built this franchise and he did it on the back of a terrible actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and so like there's enough here to just barely keep it to where it is barely watchable.
Yeah.
To me.
And
So.
Darth Vader is amazing as just being the best
he's Darth
villain
Vader,
ever.
Yeah.
One movie, and he defined what a villain should be.
Yeah.
And they just make him better in Empire and Return of the Jedi. But even just A New Hope, he's still like the greatest villain ever.
Space fascist.
Yeah.
It's so good.
At its finest.
And that's what A New Hope, that's why a lot of people love A New Hope, is because what it set up. But I'm not going to give it points for that just because it's so boring. But again, literally all 10 of these movies are good in their own right. And they don't really do, to me, they don't do anything that makes me too mad other than Force Awakens.
Sure.
Except for this last movie.
Yep. And we all have the last one. And I know this has been a very long episode, but it's because it's our May the 4th special. So that's what it's all about. Special time, special movies. And this last one is very special. So we all know what it is. So we're all going to say it in unison. All right. 1, 2, 3.
Morbius.
I'd rather watch Morbius.
Okay. All right. All right, and cut. Try it again. All right, 1, 2, 3.
The
Rise of Skywalker. That is the worst Star Wars movie.
Our
Ever.
only unanimous decision, like
Yeah,
in its
only one.
place.
That's really interesting. I think.
100%.
I think.
Well, it's just like I think
you two-
they understood that they can't make a good villain at all because they had to deal with Kylo Ren. It's like, oh, he can't be a villain the whole entire time because we got to make him so much of a good character because we're already kicking Finn out of this franchise.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and bring Emperor Palpatine back,
Oh,
who's being held
man.
together with paper clips and tape.
Somehow Palpatine returned, dude.
Somehow.
Dude. Top Star Wars line ever.
This is very
Somehow.
quotable, but not for good reasons.
This whole movie is just a meme.
Yeah.
It's just a meme that is reactionary to The Last Jedi because even though you don't like that movie, you understand that this movie is worse because a lot of what it does is it reacts to The Last Jedi. So instead of having something planned out on its own, it takes everything that The Last Jedi did and just tries to do the exact opposite. And that doesn't make for a good movie. It just means that you're trying to fix damages.
And they do that
doesn't work.
in total disregard to every other movie that's come out before this.
Oh my gosh. Drives me nuts.
Like, do you either watch Angry Joe?
I haven't watched much of him. I've seen you like watch him whenever we were at C of O.
This movie, him and his two buddies, they talked about the plot holes and how bad it is for 2 hours
So like the entire length of this podcast,
on one movie.
it's bad.
It is so bad.
And Finn is absolutely wasted. They start to hint that maybe he has some sort of force sensitivity,
Ray, I
Which-
never told you.
which is
Right, right.
he does it like every movie. Right. He they have like this plot where like there's other first order troopers who were stolen from their families and it goes nowhere. And then they have like, oh, there's the new Sith troopers. What are they?
They fly now?
I don't know. They fly now. That's even a different one because there's the jetpack trooper. And so the Sith troopers are in red armor. They're on the cover of the Celebration edition for Battlefront 2, but in the movie, nobody knows what they do.
Yeah.
They never talk about it ever. They just show up at the last battle.
Yeah.
So, but Kylo, and we're going to disagree on this heavily. Kylo is my favorite Star Wars character of all time.
Oof.
I love Kylo as a character. I think he is the only real watchable piece of this franchise. Adam Driver is an amazing actor, and he is in final talks to play Reed Richards in Fantastic Four. I don't know if he'll get it, but I hope he does because I think
man.
he's a fantastic actor. I love him. And he absolutely, the only reason why I can watch this movie is because of him. And his interactions with Han Solo and like his Force Ghost is the best scene in the movie.
It's like the one good spot.
Yeah. And honestly,
But Han Solo
the
was
fight scene's
force
pretty good.
sensitive.
Huh?
Han Solo wasn't really force sensitive. Why was like
It's
it's
still
like we're just
dumb.
gonna make
Oh yeah, it's
weird
dumb.
plot lines and stuff like that that don't even make any sense anymore because guess what? Because we're Disney and we like money.
The
Yeah, that's
only
right.
the only thing that would make sense, which obviously they don't clarify because they don't care, you could say that that's the internal battle of Kylo,
Right.
which makes it interesting. Like he's seeing Han Solo in his head, but just for movie purposes, they show Han Solo there,
Yeah.
but they don't.
But he's not actually a Force Ghost, I
Right.
don't think.
and they don't clarify that because they don't care. They don't think about
Yeah.
that because
And
they
it-
don't think about anything plot wise.
You're right.
Yeah.
It makes no sense, but it makes sense more than everything else in this movie.
Right.
Force and the Force talking was even weirder in this one.
Yes.
I remember
yeah.
as well too. It's like, I love you, Ray.
Now, there is like an
Come back
interesting
to me,
thing.
Ray. We could make this together.
There is like an
This
interesting
kitchen's not the same
without you. Gosh, that's such a good
Except a
song.
lot worse.
Um,
I'm surprised you didn't keel over and die though, because how skillful of a force user he is. Not like he's the greatest force user of all time and makes an astral projection of himself on a different planet and just miraculously dies afterwards, and they end it there. Oh, they'll probably bring him back and put him together with toothpicks and a hot glue gun and make him the antagonist in the next movie. stupidest way to end it. Holy
Guys,
cow.
it's
You
weird.
have 2 lightsabers. I'm deflecting all the lightning to reflect it back on you to defeat you and the other space demons that were out there.
It's all about like we have to get this item to go to this place to get this item to go to this place. Rey's having this internal conflict. She just shoots force lightning out of nothing, which is ridiculous. They fake Chewie's death, and then literally he reappears in the next 5 minutes.
Yep.
So it's a horrible fake death. And so totally, and of course, the opening line, the somehow Palpatine returned. Rose has one singular line in this whole movie, and
Hated
then you
Rose.
never see her again.
Hated Rose.
Lando is shoved in this movie just for nostalgia.
Yep.
This movie also runs in nostalgia.
Yeah.
Rey is Palpatine's daughter, which is super weird, but Kylo
Or
already knows
Granddaughter.
Granddaughter. That's right. Daughter, you know.
Palp's kind of got it, you know, his old age.
That's what the
if you
Jedi
notice
messed
that-
up, man. They at least needed us, like, they needed to pull the old Yoda, man. Yoda just did it secretly. He did that for baby Yoda, man. He's just like, there's got to be a force sensitive good guy out there. Gonna find some other green lady.
That's right. So there's all these things in this movie. Now, the fight scene between Kylo Ren and Rey on the broken piece of the Death Star with like the water, visually super impressive.
Visually, it's cool.
It's a great visual movie. Then they shove in all these new characters like this Poe love interest because Poe used to be a drug dealer. So
Oh, sell that space meth. Sling that space meth, Poe.
Hey, weren't you a stormtrooper?
oh
weren't
my
you a
gosh.
scavenger?
Yeah. So
Oh man,
and then Rey learns how to force heal just because.
Oh my gosh.
taking
That's so weird.
taking space welfare money from people.
space welfare money.
I hate the healing. It bugs me so
Oh
much.
my
It's
God.
Just again, another power she learned out of absolutely nowhere.
That no one else can do apparently, except for I guess Leia.
Apparently.
but hers is like different.
yeah.
Yeah, but I guess
So-
apparently Anakin thought he would get spores bringing back to life, but
It's just weird because like force healing is a power that's used in the comics, but like you can't always just bring in things without context. And this is some things that the prequels actually do bad too. Is they bring things out. They're great at building the world, but they're not great at explaining the world.
but she didn't die afterwards
So-
because she,
So and then, oh my gosh, it's so weird. And then the Knights of Ren are wasted. They're like hyped up as like these really cool like guy. I thought they were like also Jedi.
Yeah,
that
they're
were-
they're supposed to be the other because they mention it in the Force Awakens and they don't mention the Knights of Ren at all in the Last Jedi, so it's easy to forget. But in the Force Awakens, they mention how the other Jedi that Luke was training, like Kylo kills most of them, but then he takes some with him, and it's assumed that those are the Knights of Ren.
and they
Yeah,
don't
they're
use lightsabers.
worthless in
They don't
Rise
use
of Skywalker.
lightsabers, and then Kylo, who becomes Ben Solo now with a blue lightsaber, absolutely destroys them. And they, other than that, they don't have anything to do in this movie. General Hux is like this spy that everyone saw coming because of the way they directed the scene.
Yeah,
And Colin Trevorrow had a different vision for this movie. He was going to call it Duel of the Fates.
Yeah.
And that draft, like they actually had the script leaked for that movie, or like the plot synopsis, or like certain pieces of the story. That movie was going to be so much better.
way better.
And
It wouldn't have ruined the prophecy. It wouldn't have ruined Kylo. It wouldn't have
Yeah.
ruined everything about Star
Yeah.
Wars.
And then Palpatine just has, there's just this Sith planet called Exegol where he has this army of ships that are underground that he can just at a moment's instance raise them all up. Then he has like super lightning. And then the worst part of the movie is at the end where she's in the sand and on Tatooine, and some lady comes out the room and says, "Who are you?" And she's like, "I'm Rey Skywalker." And I'm like, that's so dumb. However,
dumb.
However, I did hear a theory yesterday that actually might make it a little bit better. Because Palpatine said, "If you strike me down, then I will go into you." She did kill him.
After he
So-
took their dyad, oh, the power of both of you has restored me. Now you don't need to strike me down.
Yeah, but what if her killing him at all allowed him to pass into her, and then she just takes on the name Skywalker in spite of the Skywalkers. Could be interesting, but
It'd
they
be
won't
interesting,
do,
but
they
I-
won't do that.
I still wouldn't care because it just makes me mad.
Oh
Because
yeah, I would say I'll be honest, after Last Jedi, I'm not going to the theater watching another Star Wars movie.
Ooh, you heard it here. That's spicy.
Yes, sir. And I thought it was this movie, but I guess it was Last Jedi when they did the whole entire another ass pull within the movie. I'm just gonna turn my ship into hyperdrive and fly it through the largest ship that was ever built in history.
yeah. Oh, that's another thing. And now in Rise of Skywalker, that's where they introduce light speed skipping, which is
a weird concept.
it makes no sense because literally in 1977 in A New Hope, they established that you have to make sure the coordinates are exactly right whenever you jump into hyperspace because if you hit anything, like you're dead. But then in the Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, we're able to light speed skip and like go through everything, and the TIE fighters are right on them somehow.
the whole time.
They know when to hop out of hyperspace with them. Ridiculous. And then it just, Palpatine being back, it ruins the prophecy of Anakin being the chosen one and killing Palpatine.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I hate that because they did such a good job of, Anakin's the chosen one, and then he goes so bad by being Darth Vader and kills so many people, but he's still the chosen one because he kills Palpatine in Return of the Jedi. Oh, well, somehow Palpatine has returned, and now Rey's going to kill him. So was Rey the chosen one all along? No.
Yes.
The opening crawl has Palpatine returns,
Yeah.
which is like, oh my god.
If you didn't watch movie trailers and you watch Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and you don't see a movie trailer, and you go to Rise of Skywalker and that crawl hits and you see that, you're like, huh?
what?
Because the trailer, it's such a, at the end, that's when you hear Palpatine talking, like he laughs. And so it's like, oh, Palpatine's back. How'd that happen?
Yeah.
But it's obviously they didn't plan
It's so
that because
weird.
there's no hint in The Last Jedi or The Force Awakens.
It's unnatural.
Unnatural.
I bet George Lucas started drinking.
Oh, if I was George Lucas, oh man, I'd be so mad. I'm sure he
Gosh.
is.
And you know what the best part is? They're making a new movie called New Jedi Order with Rey coming back. So I'm so excited.
Oh boy.
That's what we're gonna end it, folks.
Let's pre-order some tickets.
No, ain't doing it. Now they are making a Dawn of the Republic movie, or like a Dawn of the Jedi movie, which is supposed to be, quote, a biblical epic of how the Force started.
Oh.
And I'm like, I'm in for that. Let's go with that.
That'll work.
That'll do, Chief.
Well, happy May 4th to everybody. Sorry I had to get heated there for a little bit, but
Very entertaining. I loved hearing that.
It's okay, Kendall. I forgive you. And your wrong opinion about The Last Jedi, but that's okay too.
Disney, do better for the last of it.
Please.
Bring George Lucas back.
Please.
Bring him back.
At least he had some character and some spirit.
Or just stop. You could do that too. Either one is fine with me.
Keep to the television series.
Yes.
Keep the TV shows. They're good.
Andor.
Andor's good. Mandalorian's good. I love the Book of Boba Fett. They're most all of them are good. So
Obi-Wan.
keep on that.
Not my favorite, but
Cool ending.
Yeah, it is a cool ending.
well, we're going to sign off there, guys. Zach, thanks for coming back on. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, and thanks for sitting on this longer one with us.
Thank you so much.